What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. Shish. Chapter 31. This position is not worth mentioning. Open black lens bracket, seek evaluation ticket, close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Ahem, I didn't count just now, I'm not ready. Hawkeye once again appeared in front of Hitsugaya in an instant, clutching tightly. This time, he stared at Luffy's movements with great solemnity. The black armament Haki and the red conquerors were entwined on the supreme sword, the 12 crafts black sword knight. Zoro and the others felt the pressure from the Hawkeye with solemn faces. That kind of feeling almost made people faint on the spot. Many pirates on the sea surface were stunned by Haki and sank to the bottom of the sea. Zoro swallowed deeply, staring at Hawkeye. Is this the strength of the world's #1 swordsman? At this time, Luffy calmly took a look at Hawkeye, who was facing a big enemy. Are you ready this time? Let's make a move, Hawkeye snorted. Luffy went down lightly with his sword again. With a jingle, the sound of Hitsugaya landing echoed around everyone like a bell. Everyone looked at Hawkeye, who knelt down in front of Luffy again in shock. Conqueror's sword intent is so terrifying. At this time, Hawkeye was completely stunned. What the hell, I can't even hold a sword in front of him. Why did I involuntarily want to grab his sword? Obviously his sword is not powerful at all. Hawkeye looked up at Luffy in disbelief, and at this moment Luffy stared at Hawkeye calmly. Hawkeye got up silently and returned to the original position to pick up Hidao, looking at Hitsugaya in a daze. This is my strongest move. I have never used it against anyone since I became the #1 swordsman in the world. Hawkeye took a deep breath and said, if you can take over, I will give you the position of the world's #1 swordsman. Speaking of that, Hawkeye picked up the black knife and pointed it at Luffy. Zoro on the side looked at Luffy in shock. It turns out that the truly invincible #1 swordsman is by his side. Advertisement. Did I witness the birth of a new world's #1 swordsman? Never thought. Luffy sighed softly. This position is not worth it, I admit defeat. What? The onlookers looked at Luffy in bewilderment. This is the world's #1 swordsman. The dream position of countless well-known swordsmen. Even Zoro looked at Luffy angrily, feeling that what he was most proud of had been abandoned by Luffy. What do you think of a swordsman? Luffy shook his head, the broken sword in his hand turned into powder. He spoke to the crowd in an unfathomable way and said, the way of swordsmanship is divided into 3 levels. The first level, the body and the sword are one, the so-called grass in hand is like a sharp weapon. Second level, there is no sword in the hand and there is a sword in the heart, and 1 finger of sword energy can hurt people. The third layer, there is no sword in the hand and no sword in the heart. This is the mind in the highest state. Luffy said to Hawkeye with a sincere face. This is the ultimate truth of the way of the sword that I only realized after confronting you. From now on, I will never use a sword again. Zoro and Hawkeye looked at Luffy with deep frowns, feeling that what he said was vague but sounded awesome. And only Luffy knew the sorrow in his heart at this moment. Yes, Nima just now, after the second fight with Hawkeye. The time limit for Li Jing's template is up. What hurt Luffy the most was that he didn't know if it was because of the swordplay with Hawkeye. The Li Jing template loaded by Luffy was restored to 100%. Congratulations to the host for successfully restoring Li Jing's template to 100%, and the skills will be released soon. Congratulations to host for successfully obtaining the law of causality skill, 100% being caught empty-handed, single body. Advertisement. 100% being caught with bare hands, single body. When the host uses a sword move, a lucky audience with hands will be drawn within the field of vision to catch the host's slash. This is a causal skill and is not affected by strength limitations. Close black lens bracket. Luffy. Longevity. Give me a 100% empty-handed sword immediately, I will use a shit sword in the future. Even if he continues to duel with Hawkeye, this skill is so random. As far as the number of people present is concerned, the probability of Hawkeye catching the sword himself is less than 1%. If Hawkeye, who has always used his ult as a flat A, used his supercharged ult, then he would have no accidents other than becoming way Hoyer. So Luffy resolutely stopped the third sword that was about to start, and by the way found an excuse for himself not to use swords in the future. It's a pity that Hawkeye on the opposite side doesn't seem to buy his rhetoric too much. Luffy felt that Hawkeye's body was becoming more and more terrifying. Luffy stared at Hawkeye calmly on the surface, but actually panicked inside. Finally, Hawkeye finally drew his sword and stabbed Luffy directly. Horrific conquerors and arm slashes head straight for Luffy's face with unparalleled slashes. For a moment Luffy's mind was blanked by the impact of conquerors. Boom. The color of the sky and the earth changed, and the entire sea was divided into 2 in the eyes of everyone's horror. Barati was bobbing back and forth in the waves. Everyone looked in the direction of Luffy in horror. Hawkeye slowly withdrew the black knife from the motionless Luffy's face. He looked at Luffy with a complicated expression and said, I haven't realized it yet. Since you have abandoned the position of the world's #1 swordsman like a shoe, then I will sit in this position first. When I realize it, I will come to you to learn the way of swordsmanship. Luffy didn't speak. The straw hat on his head covered the upper half of Luffy's face, accompanied by the swaying Barati. A figure of a peerless swordsman was photographed by the reporter who came to eat with Barati. Luffy. Nima. My legs are numb. Advertisement. Chapter 32. My king, Luffy, would like to call you the strongest in paddling. Advertisement. Is this the strength of being the #1 swordsman in the world? In the turbulent wind and waves, Zoro stared at the sea that was split in half. And Hawkeye with such strength even promised in front of Luffy that he would only temporarily take the position of the #1 swordsman. Is Luffy's kendo really stronger? I want to challenge you. Zoro spoke again to Hawkeye. Oh, Hawkeye Mihawk looked at Zoro in surprise. Do you still have the courage to draw your sword even when you see such a big gap? Hawkeye suddenly felt a sense of sympathy for Zoro. He seemed to see himself in Zoro. Faced with the blows of kneeling in front of Luffy twice in a row, he resolutely swung the third sword with courage. Of course, what he admires the most is that Luffy still insists on not resisting with a sword in the face of his unique move. It has implemented what he said is the highest state of having no sword in the heart and no sword in the hand. It's a pity that I haven't reached that level yet. How did he know that Luffy didn't draw his sword purely because the plugin expired and failed to renew? At this time, Luffy vowed that he would never pretend again without hard power. This is so G exciting. Hawkeye watched the young Zoro slowly pull out the black knife behind his back. Since drawing the sword against me requires a corresponding awareness, are you ready? Hawkeye pointed his sword straight at Zoro and asked. Of course, Zoro said viciously, biting Hidao's words, I already have the consciousness of mortal death. In that case, come on. Hawkeye looked at Zoro solemnly. Advertisement. At this moment, Luffy, who finally came back to his senses, looked at the scene in front of him in astonishment. FK. What about the pocket knife? This is directly on the black knife. Can this Nima Zoro last around? Facing the mighty Hawkeye, Zoro was not afraid at all. With his two knives leaning back on his back, he rushed directly towards Hawkeye. Tiger hunting. Zoro let out a loud shout, and slashed straight at Hawkeye with both knives. Hawkeye looked at the fearless Zoro and nodded. The long-lost strong man, in order to show the etiquette of a swordsman, I will use this world's strongest black knife to kill you in the sea. Brother Zoro. Johnny and Joseph shouted nervously. Luffy is already frowning at this time. The current plot seems to be messed up by himself. He doesn't know if Hawkeye is still showing mercy to Zoro. And his current strength is not enough to stop this battle, and Zoro will certainly not let himself stop this hard-won challenge. Is it the strongest in the world? Or is it death? Zoro rushed towards Hawkeye while thinking in his mind. Ding! There was a crisp crashing sound. The two long knives in Zoro's hands instantly shattered into pieces. A long knife edge extended from Zoro's chest. Did you lose? Zoro stared blankly at the broken sword in his hand. Luffy breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he survived this time. Zoro opened his hands and faced Hawkeye. Come on. Hawkeye looked at Zoro wonderingly and asked, what is this for? Advertisement. Zoro smiled free and easy. The sword mark on the back is the shame of a swordsman. The corner of Hawkeye's mouth twitched. Crazy, lousy didn't say he must kill you. Hawkeye slowly put away the black knife, looked at this genius who refused to admit defeat. Hawkeye said loudly to Zoro. Don't worry about dying, young strong man, your future shouldn't stop here. I am Dracula Mihawk, see yourself clearly, understand the world, become stronger, and surpass the highest state of kendo with me. No matter how many years pass, I will challenge you to the highest state of kendo together. As he spoke, Hawkeye took a deep look at Luffy, found a board and rode straight out. Luffy, me, did I do something so awesome that the eagle-eyed target turned into me? Hearing this, Zoro could no longer suppress the knife wound on his chest, and fell to his knees with a plop. I saw him holding up the only remaining Hidao word and shouting out of breath, Luffy. Did you hear that? If I don't become the strongest swordsman in the world, you will be very troubled, right? That kind of loneliness that no one can surpass. That kind of loneliness that can't come out without a sword. Don't worry, I won't lose again. Wait for me at that highest level. Luffy, Nima, your dream is crooked, brother. I'm not bothered at all. What the hell am I? What if one day the two of them suddenly feel that they have enlightened themselves and challenge themselves to compare swords? Am I digging a huge hole for myself? No, to have no sword in your heart is to never have a sword. As long as they propose to compare swords with themselves, it means that they have not yet realized it. I'm going to use this excuse in the future, I'm so smart. Luffy looked at Hawkeye who was fading away with infinite emotion in his heart. As expected of the world's #1 swordsman, he was unwilling to use his black knife as an oar without a boat. It can be seen that the movement of people's paddling is different from those pirates who are in trouble. The hand turns like an engine. I, Luffy, would call you the strongest paddler. P.S. Anyone still watch it? Advertisement Chapter 33 Listening to the voice of all things open black lens bracket seeking data close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Hawkeye East Blue was crushed by mysterious man. The East Blue mysterious man is suspected of being a new Marine star. Marine adds Admiral, a suspected top swordsman. The next day, the news of Luffy's fight with Hawkeye made headlines all over the world. On the headlines, Luffy was wearing a cloak of justice and a straw hat, and lowered his head to concentrate, while behind him was a shocking wave that was cut in half by Hawkeye. Damn, this is too handsome, right? But after all, there is no match for my handsome heroism. Usopp looked at the newspaper in his hand proudly and said. Ah, Zoro looked at the newspaper wondering, where is your figure? Usopp excitedly pointed to a wide-angle lens beside Luffy. Look, my handsome nose. Zoro. MDZZ. Zoro decided to ignore this idiot who didn't know the so-called. Hey, Luffy, what the hell is Nami doing? Why didn't she tell us when she sailed away? Zoro turned his head and looked at Luffy, who was eating and drinking, and asked with a frown. Oh, I went to investigate the enemy's situation. Luffy said to Zoro with a smile. Ah, you let a navigator inquire about the enemy's situation. Do you know the way? Or do I know the way? B***********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************8 Don't you 2 younger brothers know the way? The two hurriedly gave a thumbs up excitedly. Don't worry, Boss Zoro, we also have a reward from Arlong, and we have inquired about them before. Zoro frowned, always feeling that things were not as Luffy said. But Luffy knows that Nami is actually taking the treasure on the ship alone to fulfill the bet with Arlong. Advertisement. Nami has been brainwashed by Arlong too deeply. She refuses to believe that there are human beings who are strong enough to subdue the Murlocs suppressed by blood. And Luffy also understands this. Originally in Shield's town, Luffy planned to go directly to Arlong Paradise to deal with Arlong. Nami, however, changed the subject with Buggy's Grand Line chart. You must know that Luffy is Marine at this time, and there is no need to go to Buggy the Clown for the Grand Line's sea chart. Just call Garp and someone will send the so-called sea chart. At that time, Luffy had already discovered Nami's fear, but to untie Nami's knot, Nami must fully realize Arlong's despicableness. So Luffy never mentioned the matter of going to Kokoyasi village. After arriving at Barati restaurant, Nami drove the Mary to Arlong Park alone that night. But Luffy naturally didn't catch up directly because he wanted to deal with Krieg's gang that he had let go. At this time, Krieg and his gang were directly wiped out in the duel between Luffy and Hawkeye. And Zoro has also completed the agreement to become stronger with Hawkeye. Although the goal is a bit off, it is still good overall. At this moment, Zoro, relying on his perverted willpower, could finally move freely despite the severe pain in his chest. Now is the time to head to Kokoja village to complete Nami's final walkthrough. Thinking of this, Luffy stood up slowly, and shouted into the dining room. I said, are you all done? Shut up. Sanji came out of the house angrily. When Sanji, who was disliked by the whole Barati, learned that everyone was deliberately swearing at him because they wanted him to fulfill his dream, he was deeply moved. While preparing to stage an affectionate farewell to Zap, Luffy blew away all the brewing emotions with a single throat. Zapu walked out of the restaurant slowly, and bowed deeply to Luffy. In short, I will entrust this brat to you, Colonel, from now on. This time is different from before. Whether it is Luffy's identity or Luffy's strength, it is enough to respect this strong man who has retreated from the Grand Line. Luffy smiled and waved to Jep. Don't worry, we are Marine. Hey, is Usopp finished moving the food? Usopp, who came out of the kitchen with a huge package on his back, yelled frantically, why am I doing all this work alone? Luffy took Kaido as a matter of course. Didn't you apply for a handyman when you got on the boat? Advertisement. Usopp. Boil. Sanji's eyes turned red as he watched Zep, who was rarely humbled. He silently walked to the Balati deck, and solemnly knelt down to Zapu. All the time, thank you for taking care of me. And at this time, on the Mary. Nami stood at the bow of the boat looking at the calm sea in the distance and murmured. It's really a good group of guys. Can I be his subordinate next time we meet again? If we can redeem the village. As Nami spoke, tears could not stop streaming down. Although she didn't get along for a long time, the days she spent with Luffy and the others were the happiest days she had in these years. Can we meet again? Nami squatted down, hugging her knees and buried her head deeply in her chest. I'm sure you'll be free this time, right? Bell Mel. On the other side, Luffy looked in the direction of Kokoyasi village in surprise. It was a very sad sound carried over the sea, as this listening to the voice of all things. Luffy looked into the distance and muttered to himself. It feels really uncomfortable. P.S. Everyone leave more comments in the comment area. Answer the question about whether Luffy can be a marine. Regarding the issue of Luffy Rubber Fruit, according to the progress of the manga, 5 elders did not fully confirm the identity of Luffy Joey Poi until the decisive battle between Wano Kuni Luffy and Kaido. So before Luffy is fully exposed, it is not a problem at all to become marine by virtue of Garp's relationship. And Garp originally trained Luffy as a marine. With Garp's achievements in rescuing the celestial dragons in the Valley of the Gods, before Joey Boy's identity is exposed and Rubber Fruit awakens, the 5 elders will definitely not be afraid. Advertisement Chapter 34 Ah, my dear Jessica. Open black lens bracket 5th watch close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Hey, do you really know all blue? On Johnny and Joseph's boat, Sanji asked Luffy excitedly. Luffy was holding a Sanji cigarette in his hand at this time, and his face was full of exhaustion from the years. You have asked 800 times. Even if you really can't find all blue, I will dig a hole for you in the red line, so that the seawater from all over the world will gather together. Do you think this will work? Luffy looked helplessly at Sanji Kaido. Sanji looked at Luffy with a look of disgust, with an expression of, you are such an irresponsible guy who gets people's hands. Seeing Sanji's funny face full of resentment, Luffy took a deep breath of the cigarette. Jessica, I really like you. Hey, color cook, what's for lunch? Who is the perverted cook, you green algae head? You are so injured that you must eat some light health porridge. Nani, I want to drink, I want to eat meat. Shut up, I'm the cook on the ship, you have to listen to me about what to eat. Usopp. Sanji, you are really hard-spoken and soft-hearted. Sanji, you shut up. Usopp. You're blushing. Luffy. My dear Jessica. Hey, Joseph, is Nami coming soon? At this time, Usopp asked Joseph, who was on the side with a livid face. Joseph, who was trembling all over, slapped his thigh suddenly. Do you know what you are going to do? You are so naive. Do you know that we are approaching Arlong's territory step by step? Seeing the excited Joseph, everyone stopped fighting and looked at Joseph. That's the most vicious pirate in East Blue with a reward of 20 million Baileys. Luffy. Yawn. It's almost time for lunch. Ah, what do you want to eat? Didn't you hit a bread shark just now? I want to eat 5 sharks. Zoro. I want to eat braised. Advertisement. Sanji. Shut up, you can only drink porridge. Huh, do you want to fight, pervert? Are you looking for death like a bear now? Joseph. You don't know that Arlong, do you? Sanji raised his eyebrows and asked Joseph, Arlong. Who is that? Is it better than Hawkeye? Joseph. That's right, this Captain Luffy is a terrifying existence that even the world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye, rubs against the ground. It's just Arlong, it seems that it really doesn't matter. Then what? I want to eat fried bean sprouts. Ask for a sack of beans. At this time Usopp stood up, can you explain to me? They are not afraid of me. No, I need to know the enemy's situation in advance, hey. Joseph glanced at the trembling Usopp, and said to Usopp with a serious face, Arlong is the Murloc who once made a fuss about the Grand Line. Murloc. Sanji's eyes instantly turned red, and his mind began to think, I heard that, the Fishman Island on the Grand Line has many beautiful mermaids. Could you all be more attentive? Hey, Arlong is a Murloc on the Grand Line who is on par with the Murloc Jinbei in 7 Warlords of the Sea. His strength far surpasses the leader of Krieg. Does he have eagle eyes? Joseph. I want fried bean sprouts. Hi. Sanji patted his butt and stood up. By the way, why did Nami go to that guy's territory alone? Luffy said he was sent to spy on the enemy's situation. Usopp unceremoniously betrayed Luffy. D. How can you bear to let such a beautiful woman go to such a dangerous place alone? Sanji yelled at Luffy, and then he looked Nympho again. Could it be that Nami-san is a beautiful mermaid? After all, she is so beautiful. Luffy. I want to eat 5 sharks. Sanji. Shut up, I'll do it right away. Soon bursts of fragrance came from the cabin, and Zoro, who was convalescing on the side, struggled to get up to get a share, but Sanji threw him on the bed mercilessly. Advertisement. B***************. D. I will kill you when I recover. Shut up. Listen to the chef at sea. ... At this time, Kokoyasi village. In Arlong Paradise, Arlong dropped a stack of Baileys onto the table. This is for this month, take it. On the opposite side, Colonel Marine with a long beard and a mouse-like face smiled triumphantly. GG, brother Arlong, your mind is really different from that of ordinary pirates, you are really sophisticated. Quote. As he spoke, Colonel Mouse unceremoniously received Bailey into his arms. Arlong on the opposite side laughed loudly. Everyone, as long as you are willing to be my friend, you can taste endless sweetness here in East Blue. If you can understand this, it means that you are also a smart Colonel Marine. It's always been embarrassing, Colonel Mouse said to Arlong with a smirk. Harmony makes money. Harmony makes money, ha ha ha. Money is a good thing, more trustworthy than anything else, isn't it? Arlong spoke to Colonel Mouse in a strange tone. Colonel Mouse felt uncomfortable seeing Arlong's expression. Then I will excuse you first. Scary, ha ha ha. Do you want to have a drink together before leaving? It's always bad for a warship on patrol to stop on a pirate's island. What are you afraid of? Whoever dares to file a complaint with the headquarters will kill him. Having said that, Arlong's face was full of murderous look. Colonel Mouse on the opposite side was suddenly shuddered. Hey, Xiaoba, the colonel is back, send him aboard. Then Colonel Mouse was sent back to the warship by Octopus Xiaoba in a jar. At this moment, Nami's figure has appeared far above the ground level. At this time, Luffy is immersing his consciousness in the attribute panel in his mind. This template, the degree of reduction is a bit high. P.S. Catch up with the 5th update. Advertisement Chapter 35 New Template. Luffy can't stop ninjutsu. Advertisement. It has been more than half a day since Li Jing's template disappeared. At this time, Luffy remembered that he seemed to have not loaded the template randomly. System random template. Ding dong, the template is random. Open black lens bracket. Congratulations on getting this random template. Hoshigaki Kisame. Close black lens bracket. Luffy. No, you can't just give me a shark template just because I'm going to hunt sharks. Let me tell you, if you are also playing with water, you can give me the water god Senju Tobarama. When Luffy saw the system prompt, his face was full of depression. Hoshigaki Kisame, one of the members of Akatsuki. One of the second batch of Ninja Sword 7, in Kurigakure, the land of water, and the second user of the big sword Samahata. It has a shark-like face, skin color and sharp teeth. Good at using water style and the big sword, Samahata, in his hand, a big sword that can absorb chakra to attack. Due to the amazing chakra in its body, it is called Tailless Beast. Although this guy has a lot of roles, he is not too strong in Hokage in terms of strength alone. Although the strength from the first part to Shippuden has increased a lot. But looking at his appearance record, except for the one-on-one Four Tails Jinchuriki, his performance is remarkable. Except for the relatively easy fight with Hyuga Neji's juniors, the rest of the battles were particularly difficult. In terms of strength, Kisame belongs to the second echelon in the Hokage world. Luffy looked helplessly at the property panel, and suddenly his brows frowned. This Kisame, the degree of reduction is a bit high. Advertisement. Open black lens bracket host. Wong Luffy Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket currently loading template. Tail Hoshigaki Kisame close black lens bracket. Equipment. Ninja Sword Samahata can devour the opponent's chakra, physical strength, feedback to the host, eliminate the owner's fatigue, quickly heal the owner's wounds, enhance the host's physical strength and speed, keep the host in the best fighting state, and can be combined with the host to become Murloc. Innate abilities. 3 body technique, throwing Grandmaster, water style Grandmaster, earth style diving in earth, strange power, shark calling. Character reset countdown. 6 days, 2 hours, 02 minutes and 47 seconds. Character restoration degree, 70%. This is the first time that Luffy has encountered a situation where the restoration degree of the first load is directly close to full. Luffy touched his chin. Sure enough, is the reduction degree related to the comparison between the template and your own physical fitness? Whether it was Poseidon or Li Jing before, the universe they were in was obviously higher than that of Pirate World. The strength of the two is also much stronger than that of Luffy at that time, so when the restoration speed is loaded, Luffy's body is not enough to inherit the full strength of the template. At this time, the Hokage where Kisame is located is weaker than One Piece World in terms of physical skills. Even the cage level strong in Hokage may be assassinated by kunai, shuriken, and detonating charms without paying attention. But in One Piece World, Kaido was arrested for making troubles in Marine Base many times, and Marine tried his best to kill him. So although Hokage with peak combat power is stronger than One Piece World, in terms of physical skills alone, people in Hokage are not as hard as 4 emperors even at the 6 paths level. And Luffy, the Zone Devil Fruit in the form of Phantom Beast, Human Fruit, and Nika, strengthens the physical fitness even more obviously. At this time, although Luffy has not even learned armament haki, his physical fitness is already much stronger than Kisame. Luffy, who is in the second gear, is already comparable to CP9 with the full level of 6 styles. Luffy, who is now capable, has no problem accepting Kisame's full strength. And the reason why there is no 100% reduction. It is likely to be proficiency in using ninjutsu, and some fragmentary options such as combat experience. Advertisement. Thinking of this, Luffy slowly came to the bow. Brother Luffy, what are you doing? Joseph, who knew his way aside, looked at Luffy in surprise. I saw Luffy quickly catching and leading with both hands, and couldn't help shouting, wow ha ha ha, I bought a watch last year, who repaired the water-style bus, he, Tui. Under Joseph's bewildered gaze, Luffy vomited out waves like huge waves, carrying the boat straight ahead. All of a sudden, the whole boat was turned upside down, and the injured Zoro fell from the bed and screamed in pain. Luffy, what the hell are you doing? Sanji came out of the kitchen with bean sprouts on his head and growled loudly. Luffy stood at the bow of the boat awkwardly and coughed twice. Ahem, I am experimenting with ninjutsu. In fact, I have another identity that I haven't told you. I am a ninja. After speaking, Luffy took off the extra big knife Samahata on his back and swung it vigorously. Ninja, I think you are a teenage mutant ninja turtle. Return a ninja. Sanji cursed and went back to the kitchen to continue cooking. Usopp and Johnny came up and patted Joseph, whose eyes were shining. What the hell is going on? Single quote. Joseph pointed at Luffy excitedly. Ninjutsu. Brother Luffy knows ninjutsu. Usopp and Johnny's eyes lit up instantly. Ninja. 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 Show us ninjutsu. The corner of Luffy's mouth twitched. He almost forgot that men in Pirate World seemed to have an inexplicable admiration for ninjas. Luffy grinned as he looked at the 3 people with glowing eyes. Yaoshi, water-style Shui Sha Dan technique. A huge shark made of water directly wrapped the entire ship and rushed towards Arlong Paradise. Everyone. Gouda Gouda. Advertisement chapter 36. Let's go in happily. Advertisement. I originally planned to get along with you as ordinary people. Stop pretending. I have a showdown. I am a ninja. You guys put me down. Luffy said deeply while being tied to a chair by everyone. Shut up. You almost drowned us all just now. Just now Luffy used a water shark bomb, and the transformed shark wrapped the boat and swam in the sea. But obviously not everyone has Kisame's physique. 5 minutes later, Luffy finally noticed that Joseph and Johnny had given up struggling among the water sharks, and then released the ninjutsu. Then Luffy was tied to a chair by the angry crowd to prevent him from making any more messes. Fortunately, at this time, Kokoyasi village is already looming. The first thing you see is the towering Arlong Park. Is this the base of the Murloc from the Grand Line, called Arlong? Usopp lay on the side of the boat and nervously stared at the Arlong Paradise in the distance. Did Nami come here to inquire about information? First of all, we need to find the Golden Mary that Nami big sister is riding on, right? Johnny also whispered beside him, see if it stops on the island. What are you doing so quietly? Zoro looked at the nervous Usopp and Johnny with a puzzled expression. He directly grabbed Hidao's text and stood up. Very good, let's go in happily. Nani, Usopp, Johnny, and Joseph suddenly stared. Usopp. Are you an idiot? Why do you have to be like this when you come up? We haven't got any clues yet. The other party is that Murloc. Advertisement. First of all, we should make a battle plan. Hey. Hey Luffy. Take care of Zoro. Everyone turned their heads to look at Luffy who was tied to the chair, only to see Luffy grinning, and his whole body turned into a puddle of water. What? Life. The captain has turned into water. Water body technique. The strength of the clone made of water is about 1/10 of the main body. Luffy had already created a water body by himself when everyone settled accounts, and the main body had already set off early. Zoro stepped on the bow of the boat and pointed to Arlong Paradise with a word in his hand. I don't like to be so troublesome. No matter who the other party is, just cut it all the way and it's over. Just cough. Behind Usopp and Johnny looked at each other. A huge rubber hammer suddenly appeared in his hand and smashed towards the back of Zoro's head. Boom. The place where Luffy was bound was now Zoro's throne. What are you doing? Why are you so noisy? Sanji walked from the cabin impatiently, looked up and saw Zoro tied to the chair. Huh. Where's Luffy? Why is the green algae tied here? Luffy has turned into water. Zoro is going to enter Arlong Paradise and we have subdued him. Zoro. I told you to untie it. B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* should take a good rest now. Usopp smiled and comforted, stay here obediently. As he spoke, Usopp pressed Zoro's chest, and Zoro rolled his eyes in pain. Sanji on the side was at a loss. Huh, what a mess. Usopp explained to Sanji with a face of relief. In short, we need to find Nami first and then decide what to do next. Otherwise, what should we do if we directly attack Arlong Paradise and Nami's safety is threatened? Advertisement. Sanji heard Nami's serious expression and nodded in agreement. Yes, Miss Nami must have been caught by the evil Arlong, and I am the hero who went to save her. The poignant and beautiful love story of Dragon Quest instantly filled Sanji's mind, and his expression softened instantly, like two idiots. Johnny. What happened to him? Usopp. Leave him alone, he's a big fool, we'd better find the Mary and rendezvous with Nami first. The younger brother duo decisively nodded in agreement. On the other side, Luffy landed from a small town. It's really much faster to travel with water shark bombs than to take a boat, but where is this? Luffy surveyed his surroundings, only to find that all the houses in the town were violently turned upside down. That's right, the kind where the whole house is turned upside down. This is the town that Arlong destroyed. What's it called? Luffy rubbed his chin in thought. Along the way, the town is full of bloodline. Luffy didn't see the corpse exposed, it was obvious that the remaining villagers had disposed of the corpse. There is a deep gully in the center of the houses on both sides, as if there is a trace of a giant creature crawling through. Isn't Momu doing this? Luffy looked at the ravine on the ground and sighed, it looks much bigger than in the anime. How did you know Mumu? At this time, a questioning voice came from behind, and the huge shadow covered the sunlight behind him. Luffy grinned suddenly, turned his head 180 degrees to look at the Murloc behind him, and said slowly to the Murloc in a terrifying tone. Because I was killed by him. Chapter 37 Nuo Chigao. Who are you? Advertisement. What? The Murloc behind him trembled and fell backwards to the ground. Luffy turned his head amusedly. First, he saw two extremely ugly Murlocs covered in blue and with fish fins on their heads looking at him in horror. It's been said that you Murlocs have a low IQ, but now it seems that you really are. Luffy said to the Murloc mockingly. The Murloc, who was still in shock, looked at Luffy and heaved a sigh of relief. It turned out that it was not a ghost. Damn kid, how dare you scare us? You probably don't want to live. The frightened Murloc roared angrily. He stood up abruptly, and punched Luffy straight with a punch. The huge force even made howls in the air. It's over, this guy is dead. Nuo Chigao, who was hiding behind a house, closed his eyes in pain. There was a muffled bang. How can it be? The inconceivable exclamation of the Murloc reached Nuo Chigao's ears. Nuo Chigao quickly opened her eyes, but she saw a scene that surprised her. I saw Luffy yawned and put one finger against the Murloc's fist. Do you eat when you have so much energy to eat? Luffy asked the Murloc with a smile. After hearing this, the Murloc was furious. What did you say, kid? However, what greeted him in the next second was the huge Samahata sword behind Luffy. Advertisement. With a bang, the Murloc's head was turned back at an extremely strange angle, and the Murloc's figure was also slammed into the collapsed building. The companions behind the Murloc stared dumbfounded at Luffy, who was not as tall as their waist. After staying in the water for a long time, not only the brain is flooded, but the ears are also bad. I say you two haven't eaten. Luffy taunted another Murloc again. In the next second, that Murloc, like the first one, crashed into the ruins without making a sound. Nuo Chigao, who was hiding behind the wall, suddenly changed his face. It's over, the Murloc is dead. You must know that Arlong is a strong racist, even if someone contradicts this group of Murlocs a little, he will slaughter the entire village. Hiding even a weapon would be regarded as a rebel and killed, let alone a Murloc who regarded Arlong as a brother. This guy is in big trouble. Single quote. This was the only thought left in Nuo Chigao's mind. At this time, Luffy seems to be unaware of these. He flicked the big knife Samahata in his hand. I don't know if it was because of the loading of the Kisame template. The Samahata big knife felt very easy to use. And it seems that because Samahata is a creature, it is not 100% within the scope of the white sword that is covered by the skill of empty-handed and white-handed. With the addition of Devil Fruit, Luffy's original physical strength has already exceeded what he should have at his age. Coupled with the strange power brought by the Kisame template, even if Luffy does not use the second gear at this time, he can already exert the power of the second gear in the original work. The Murlocs, whose defense was far superior to that of humans, were crushed like tofu in front of Luffy. Luffy poked the dead Murloc, turned around and looked at the figure walking towards him with a smile. I thought you wouldn't come out. Single quote. At this time, Nuo Chigao walked up to Luffy angrily. How can you attack the Murlocs? This town of Gasa was slaughtered by the Murlocs precisely because a villager disobeyed the Murlocs. So that's the case, so what should we do now? Luffy spread his hands at Nuo Chigao with an innocent face. Nuo Chigao walked anxiously into the ruins. The Murlocs are physically strong, maybe they didn't cause a fatal attack on them just now, if they are still alive. Advertisement. Nuo Chigao saw 2 Murlocs whose necks were beaten into twists. Nuo Chigao. If this is alive, hey. At this time, another little boy came out from behind a house, and he rushed out crying and shouting, where are the Murlocs? I'm going to kill the Murlocs. This little boy is one of the few survivors in the town of Gasa. Murloc, you're late, come early, maybe I'll let you vent your anger. Luffy smiled and pointed to the corpses of the 2 Murlocs. Little boy, he burst into tears when he saw the Murloc lying on the ground. Dad, someone has avenged you. Nuo Chigao on the side shouted to Luffy frantically, do you guys know the seriousness of the matter? This is Arlong's subordinate of the Murloc pirates. Single quote. Even if these 2 Murlocs are killed, hundreds of Murlocs and several Murloc cadres will avenge them. Luffy looked at Nuo Chigao's frantic look and was very interesting, then kill them all. You think this is killing a chicken? That's a Murloc who was born 10 times stronger than a human. See these upside-down houses, it's all done by the cadres of the Murloc pirates. Nuo Chigao explained to Luffy excitedly. But Luffy walked slowly in front of an upside-down house, put his hand on a corner. Is that what you said? Boom. The huge upside-down house was turned upside down in an instant. Nuo Chigao and the little boy were stunned. Who the hell are you? Luffy grinned. Colonel Naval Headquarters, Monkey D. Luffy. Chapter 38. The Scary Luffy. Advertisement. Hi, Marine. The little boy looked at Luffy in disbelief with an excited expression on his face. Why, doesn't it look like it? Luffy swam from the sea this time, so he didn't wear his Justice Cloak. The little boy looked at the dead Murloc and shook his head frantically. Like. It's so similar. Hey, is this really okay? This is a Murloc from Arlong's Murloc pirate group who has a bounty of 20 million Baileys. Nuo Chigao frowned and asked Luffy, if they find out that you killed his partner, you will definitely have no way out. Luffy chuckled. As long as you don't get discovered, it's over. Nuo Chigao was taken aback. What followed was an unbelievable scene. I saw Luffy bit his finger, and his hands quickly sealed. Water-style water prison technique. Summoning technique. Poof. A huge ball of water wrapped the corpses of the 2 Murlocs, and countless sharks in the water polo emerged out of thin air and directly devoured the corpses of the Murlocs. This is exactly the ninjutsu that Hoshigaki Kisame once used to kill himself. Soon the entire water polo was infested with red blood. With a puff, the water polo exploded, and the originally huge Murloc corpse was now empty. Nuo Chigao and the little boy swallowed in shock. Advertisement. Why does this method feel more terrifying than Arlong? All in all, you guys come to my place to hide from the limelight, even if it's Marine, it's not possible to fight against Arlong until the support arrives. Nuo Chigao let out a long breath and said calmly. Luffy nodded and did not object, this time he came here just to prepare to sneak in when Nami was most vulnerable. No, it was a hero to save the beauty. Only after experiencing real despair, will Nami follow her to sea with all her heart. Soon Luffy followed Nuo Chigao to a green-orange orchard. Is this the orange grove planted by Belle Mel? Sure enough, it's growing really well. Luffy sighed as he looked at the already fruitful Lin Yuan. Nuo Chigao in front froze suddenly. She turned her head to look at Luffy with a solemn face and asked, who the hell are you? Why do you know Belmel? Luffy didn't pay any attention to Nuoki's face as if facing a formidable enemy, but slowly looked at the orange grove where Nami grew up. Didn't I tell you? My name is Luffy and I'm a Marine Colonel. Luffy grabbed an orange and popped it open in his mouth. It's so sour. The oranges cultivated by Belle and Mel are not at all the oranges that Luffy ate in the previous life. They are more like the limes specially prepared for sailors to supplement vitamin C when going out to sea. Nuo Chigao looked at Luffy who didn't see anything, and his face was a little ugly. What are you here for? Me, my navigator is lost, and I'm here to pick her up. Luffy threw a piece of orange into his mouth again, and his mouth was immediately stimulated to drool. This thing is really thirst-quenching. Nuo Chigao looked at Luffy suspiciously. Navigator. Advertisement. Luffy nodded and looked at Nuo Chigao teasingly and said, that's right, what's the name? Ah, it's Nami. Nuo Chigao's face changed drastically when he heard the words. Could it be that Nami cheated money into Luffy's head? You must know that Nami has been stealing money from pirates before. Nuo Chigao hurriedly stopped leading the way, pretending to be puzzled and said to Luffy, Nami. Who is Nami? But there is still a photo of Nami and her in her room. At this time she has to find a way to prevent Luffy from finding Nami. The Murloc pirates already caused Nami a lot of pain, but if he messes with Marine again. Luffy looked at Nuo Chigao's expression and laughed. Don't be so nervous, I didn't come to ask Nami for the bill, just like the literal meaning, she is my navigator. I heard that my navigator's hometown is full. I was oppressed by a group of pirates, so I came here to unshackle my dear navigator. Nuo Chigao breathed a sigh of relief, but she still remained vigilant towards Luffy. What is oppressed? Nami is a witch, a leader of the Murloc pirates. Nuo Chigao tentatively said to Luffy. Of course I know, and I also know about the bet between Nami and Arlong. Luffy shook his head in silence and said, when he was in Baratie, his body had awakened the talent of listening to the voice of all things, and felt Nami's sadness. This is why, in the original book, Luffy's EQ is always higher than the secret. Originally, I planned to destroy the Murloc pirates directly, but unfortunately Nami was very worried that I would not be able to defeat the Murloc pirates, so that her dear family members would be killed by Arlong. So she ran back to Kekiasi village alone to complete the agreement with the 100 million yuan she had already saved. Nuo Chigao was overjoyed when he heard this. Is Nami's money enough? Luffy nodded. The Alvida pirates and Crow's Black Cat pirates provided Nami with an income of no less than 30 million Baileys. In addition, the savings that Nami has accumulated over the years are enough to cover the ransom agreed with Arlong. Chapter 39th Admirable Death, 5th Watch. Advertisement. Great. Nami finally doesn't have to live in pain anymore. Nuo Chigao said excitedly. You also think Arlong will keep his word? Luffy looked at Nuo Chigao curiously and asked. No. Who would have thought that Nuo Chigao shook his head? Arlong will never keep his promise. But this way we finally don't have to continue to be a stumbling block for Nami. Nuauchi said to Luffy in a low voice. We all know the reason why Nami joined the Arlong pirates. In order to redeem the village, she greets her mother-killing enemy with a smile every day. Obviously we can get rid of Arlong's control, but for us, Nami has no complaints working for the Murloc pirates. We couldn't bear to see that innocent little girl's hopes dashed, but we all knew that day would come sooner or later. So we've all been waiting for this day, to use our deaths to send Nami into the sea. Luffy fell silent instantly after hearing Nuo Chigao's statement. That's right, the people in Kokoyasi village are not without blood. If it weren't for an 8-year-old girl who endured the pain and smiled at the crowd and said that she joined the Murloc pirates, the crowd would have risen up. An 8-year-old girl endured humiliation for her own sake, so why not cherish her own life? So all these years everyone has been waiting for the moment when Nami completes the agreement with Arlong. And now the moment is finally here. No matter what the result is, Nuo Chigao can only be happy that Nami is about to get rid of the shackles in his heart at this time. Luffy looked at Nuo Chigao and sighed. All these years, Nami, who has been walking on the edge of life and death since childhood, is certainly suffering. Advertisement. But this group of bloody villagers has never felt comfortable. After all, they are under the high-handed rule of the Murloc pirates, and everyone lives in fear. Sometimes death is not terrible, what is terrible is the process of waiting to die. Luffy looked at Nuauchi who was determined to die and shrugged. Won't you invite me in for a cup of tea? Are you really not afraid of that Arlong? That's a terrifying Murloc who has a bounty of 20 million Baileys and rules more than 20 towns. Nuo Chigao couldn't help reminding Luffy again. Luffy didn't answer directly, but just looked in the direction of Arlong Paradise and said, this world is so big, it's bigger than you can imagine. There's really nothing to be afraid of like Arlong. And at this moment, a villager hurried into the orange grove. Nuauchi Gao. It's not good. Arlong, he has come to the village. It's probably because Mr. Ajien hid the weapon privately. Nuo Chigao's expression changed instantly. What did you say? Then he ignored Luffy and hurried towards the village. Luffy unhurriedly followed along. Soon Luffy followed Nuo Chigao to the streets of Kokosha village. At this time, the street was empty, only a group of tall murlocs of different shapes and sizes surrounded a middle-aged man with a windmill on his head. Are you the one with the weapon? A terrifying murloc with long fins on its back, a jagged nose, and a mouth full of fangs, taller than the awning, stared at the man condescendingly. Ah, that's right, I really like to admire weapons. Under your rule, is even collecting weapons forbidden? The windmill above Aegean's head was spinning crazily under the blowing of the sea breeze, and his face full of scars proved the cruel experiences he had suffered in these years. Ah, it's not allowed. Arlong sneered at Jien and said, weapons will only generate evil thoughts and violence, and they are the biggest factor that endangers peace. Advertisement. The surrounding murlocs burst into laughter, as if they deeply agreed with what Arlong said. At this time, Nuo Chi was hiding behind a house and gnashing her teeth. Luffy poked his head out behind her and made a tisk-tisk sound. This is Arlong, it really is ugly as hell. Nuo Chigao was terrified, and made a shush gesture with his hand on his mouth. Luffy spread his hands helplessly. It seems like everyone in town thinks the murlocs are invincible. However, this is what makes Luffy feel admirable, knowing that they are going to die, but they are not afraid at all. This makes people feel a sense of admiration while feeling extremely contradictory. I rule 20 towns, and the rebellion will be very troublesome. Arlong pinched his waist and said helplessly. As a manager, I have already wiped out Gosa, Dagong Township, for the public display of other villages and towns. The failure to pay the confession means a rebellion against us. Arlong's frivolous tone made the villagers who hid in the houses to watch gnash their teeth. Nuo Chigao explained to Luffy. We have to use money every month to buy our own lives, adults and children are the same. As long as someone in the village can't pay the contribution, even one person, the whole village will be like Jay Saw was killed like that. That's Arlong's rule, they're racist and they don't take killing seriously. Luffy narrowed his eyes slightly, and Luffy, who had seen Gosar's end, had a clearer understanding of the brutality of the Murloc pirates. This also strengthened Luffy's determination to wipe out the Murloc pirates. Just defeat like the original. Wait until these guys reunite on the Grand Line. Just kidding, who knows how many innocent villages and towns will suffer along the way. Wong Luffy doesn't think he is a good person, but he is not stingy about raising his hands for such a good thing. Chapter 40 about Nami's answer in the comment area. Advertisement. Thanks to this reader who is willing to give his opinion. About Nami, my latest chapter also explains some. The main reason is that I don't want to collapse the character design of the original character. In the original book, Nami left Luffy not because he didn't want to get Luffy involved. In my opinion, the real reason why Nami left is because Nami couldn't afford to gamble, and it took 10 years to make up 100 million pele. It is impossible for Nami to pin her hopes on the so-called friendship or the partner who has not known for a few months because of the short time she spent with Luffy. As the anime said, Arlong is a racist, and he brainwashed Nami from a young age. Nami is from East Blue and has been living under the rule of Arlong. Her strength cannot be viewed from the perspective of us as God. In his opinion, Arlong is invincible, maybe in her eyes, even Hawkeye may not be as strong as Arlong. And whether it is the original book or the book, Nami left before the arrival of Hawkeye, before Luffy and Krieg fought. So Nami can only understand part of Luffy's strength, and Luffy in this book is almost instant kill every time he makes a shot, and he doesn't show overwhelming strength, so Nami took Bailey to leave to complete the bet. A very reasonable thing. After all, this is a glimmer of hope that I have endured 10 years of pain and is about to complete it. It is impossible to give up your beliefs because of a sudden companion. Advertisement. As stated in the book, Nami is willing to believe in Luffy because of Garp's title as a marine hero. Rather than Luffy's strength, and since Garp isn't personally involved, Nami certainly won't be counting on Luffy being stronger than Arlong. Because without knowing whether he can win, once Luffy loses, Nami will face the demise of the entire Kokoyasi village. She couldn't afford to gamble, so it became a necessity for Nami to leave alone. Only when everyone chose to die because they couldn't bear her to continue suffering for the village. The desperate Nami chose to ask Luffy for help, which is the author's understanding of Nami's personality. The author doesn't think that Nami left because of worrying Luffy. If he was worried about getting Luffy involved, Nami would not have driven the Golden Mary away. It can only be said that when Nami had to choose between the village and Luffy, he chose the village. After all, redeeming Kokoyasi village is Nami's only belief in these years. And only when Nami's faith is shattered is the time when Nami, the navigator of the Straw Hats, really returns. Advertisement. Think about it in your shoes, and on the one hand is the goal that I have worked hard for 10 years and is about to complete. On the other side are friends who I have known for less than 2 months. Anyone will choose a relatively safe solution. Therefore, when Nami knew that Garp would not personally deal with Arlong, Nami had already given up the idea of Luffy dealing with Arlong. Just like when Hawkeye confronted Zoro. Whether it is the East Blue people or the pirates of the Krieg pirates, they all think that Zoro, as the famous swordsman and pirate hunter of East Blue, should be almost the same as Hawkeye. But we all know that the gap between the strengths of the two is not measured in miles. When Joseph introduced Arlong, he also compared Arlong with Jinbei from Seven Warlords of the Sea, saying that the two were pirates of the same level. But in fact, there is a huge difference in strength between the two. So in the eyes of Nami, who has been ruled by evil dragons for a long time, the evil dragons are also at the Seven Warlords of the Sea level, even stronger. Then it is only natural that Nami leaves Luffy and chooses to save Kokoyasi village in the way he has worked hard for 10 years. Chapter 40. What's wrong with you, compatriot? Advertisement. Listen well, inferiors. Arlong looked at Ajien, who was waiting to die, then looked at the villagers hiding in the houses and shouted, "You inferior humans don't have to think about anything, just keep working and make money for us. I need a huge amount of money, haha. In the near future after you make offerings, you will become the cornerstone of the Arlong Empire that rules this East Blue." Ya ha 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 ha. Arlong burst out laughing. Nuo Chigao looked at Arlong angrily. Is this guy going to turn the entire East Blue into an empire of Murlocs? PFF'd. Luffy chuckled and couldn't hold back the laughter. What are you laughing at? Nuo Chigao looked at Luffy dissatisfied. Do you know the seriousness of what Arlong said? Haha. I really can't hold it back. The Arlong Empire. Do you know how hard it took the Fishman Island to barely become a member of the world government? Turning East Blue into the Arlong Empire. This guy has been back from the Grand Line for a long time, and his brain has gone stupid, haha. Do you really think I can do what the Germa family did? The Germa family? What are you talking about? Nuo Chigao looked at Luffy, who was laughing in surprise, and asked. It's nothing. I just thought of some happy things, haha. At this moment, Arlong suddenly reached out and grabbed Ajien's neck. Nuo Chigao clenched her right hand tightly and couldn't help but wanted to rush out, but she still held back. You must know that Mr. Ajien is like a father to the two sisters Nami and Nuo Chigao. Advertisement. Regardless of his vicious appearance, the windmill on his head was also used to make the baby Nami laugh when he was a child. It took 18 years until Nami was rescued from the Murloc pirates, and the windmill was inserted back into Belle Mel's grave. At this time, Ajien was caught in Arlong's hands in pain. Possessing a weapon has completely constituted a rebellion. In order to prevent people like you from appearing in the future, I have to kill you here as a warning. Hearing this, Nuo Chigao couldn't bear to rush out anymore, and she shouted at Arlong. Arlong, how can you be so foolish? We have provided you with a lot of money for the past 8 years. Now, how could there be any intention of rebellion? Let go of Mr. Jien. That's right. That's right. He didn't use a weapon, did he? Stop. Let go of Mr. Jien. The villagers in the room all came out of the house one by one, and surrounded them angrily. I said that holding a weapon is equivalent to rebellion. Arlong's face suddenly became gloomy. Or do you want me to destroy the entire village? As long as one of you dares to attack us, this village is doomed. I don't care. Arlong looked mockingly at the outraged villagers. Ajien yelled out in pain. Everyone hurry back. If we resist here, then our 8 years of hard work will be in vain. If we want to fight to the death to refuse to rule, what we did 8 years ago, it's time to do it, isn't it? But everyone has sworn, we are going to fight a protracted war, and we will live for it. Everyone gritted their teeth and looked at Arlong, and fell silent when they heard Ajien's difficult cry. Arlong looked at the people in Kokoyashi village with a sneer. Since he had an agreement with Nami, he naturally knew what these people were talking about. But while he used Nami to suppress Kokoyashi village, he used everyone in Kokoyashi village to suppress Nami. He held up Ajien and laughed loudly. It's really a good talk. It's well said. Yes, maybe it's fun, even for an ant like you. Creatures are not born equal. Scary ha ha ha. Advertisement. Arlong violently threw Ajien to the ground. Just when Ajien was about to die, a big hand patted Arlong's shoulder. Arlong looked back in surprise, only to find that the Murlocs who were going to patrol Gasa town were standing behind him. Arlong looked at the Murloc suspiciously and asked, "What's the matter, compatriot?" On the opposite side, Nuo Chigao's expression changed drastically. Isn't this guy dead? I saw this guy being eaten up by the shark summoned by Luffy with my own eyes. Shish. Luffy's figure appeared behind Nuo Chigao at some point, watching a show. Nuo Chigao was stunned to find that Luffy had mixed in the crowd and came behind him at some point. When Nuo Chigao looked back at Arlong again, he saw that Murloc punched Arlong hard on the chin. Caught off guard, Arlong was thrown flying in an instant. All the people present were stupefied. What the hell? What's the situation? Internal strife. Arlong looked at the Murloc in bewilderment. Compatriot, what's wrong with you? For the Murlocs, Arlong was very tolerant. Even if he was slapped in the face, Arlong would still ask what was going on right away. At this point Luffy in the crowd grinned. The Murloc on the opposite side suddenly yelled in pain. It's you. Arlong. You killed my brother, and you killed the patrolling brother. I came to seek revenge on you under the guidance of Sea God. Arlong. Chapter 41 Playing with Arlong. Open black lens bracket. Ask for flowers. Close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Hey, B asterisk 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 D, what do you mean? How did you do it to brother Arlong? The Murlocs at the side asked this Murloc in surprise. I saw the Murloc pointing at Arlong with painful exaggerated acting skills and yelling. My brother and I are on patrol in Gosar town, and this guy came up and attacked us without saying a word. Whatever you say about the Arlong Empire is fake, he has already contacted people from the world government to sell us as slaves. And this time use our dead bodies to show our sincerity. Arlong, you traitor. Everyone looked at Arlong in horror. Brother, is it real? Arlong looked at the crowd frantically. How is it possible? I have always been in Arlong paradise. And if I want to kill them, how could he appear here intact? Everyone nodded after hearing this, because with Arlong's strength, it is impossible for this guy to come here to complain. However, the Murloc sneered. It's all thanks to the god of the sea's blessing that I can live here. He gave me life temporarily so that I can expose your despicable face. The Murlocs around looked at him in confusion. Brother, have you lost your mind and gone crazy? Why is there still a sea god? The Murloc didn't speak, and he yelled sadly, be careful Arlong. Then the whole person burst into a puddle of water. All the Murlocs looked in horror at where the Murlocs were originally. Could it be that the sea god really brought him back to life? The group subconsciously took 2 steps back, away from Arlong. The onlookers watched the scene in front of them and started talking in low voices. This is a ruthless person, so ruthless that he won't even spare his own people. Fight, fight, it's best to die. Nuo Chigao asked Luffy in a low voice, you did this. Luffy smiled and nodded. Is it fun? Nuo Chigao shook her head. The acting skills are too bad. Advertisement. Luffy on the side staggered. It's okay to watch, didn't you see that the Murlocs watched it with gusto? The Murloc just now was transformed by Luffy using the water body and transformation technique. I have to say that the most basic 3-body technique in the ninja world can play a considerable role in the pirate world. If it weren't for not knowing his appearance, Luffy felt that he could make Arlong kneel on the ground and sing Conquest by being a fisher tiger. Odin also lost Kaido because of the distraction caused by clone fruit. At this time, Nami came running from outside the village panting, and shouted anxiously while running, Arlong. Before the agreement, we agreed not to attack Kokoyashi village. However, when Nami approached, he found that the atmosphere at the scene was a bit weird. The villagers whispered, and Arlong was isolated by the Murlocs. What happened? Nami surveyed the scene suspiciously. Suddenly she saw the figure of Luffy carrying the big knife Samahata, her pupils shrank, and her mind was shocked. Luffy, why is he here? At this moment, Nami was very anxious. She didn't know whether Luffy came to arrest Arlong, or came to ask for a boat from herself, so she could only pray in her heart that Luffy would not make a move. Nami said to Arlong on the ground, Arlong, I have collected 100 million Baileys, and I will take them to Arlong Paradise tomorrow. I hope you can keep your promise. At this time, Arlong, who was confused, heard Nami's words, and immediately came to his senses. He stood up from the ground and patted the dirt on his body, of course. I, Arlong, have never missed an appointment when it comes to money, so scary ha ha ha. Then he looked at his terrified companions and frowned. Idiot. We are from the Grand Line. What kind of sea god? I think it is a demon. The Murlocs were taken aback when they heard the words. Brother Arlong, you mean? Demon fruit power. Arlong looked around with an ugly face. Nami's heart skipped a beat. She was worried that Arlong would discover Luffy's presence. Advertisement. However, Arlong searched around and couldn't find Luffy, which made Nami very surprised. Arlong waved to the Murlocs in a deep voice. Go. Immediately, all the pirates walked towards Arlong Paradise. Nami looked at the villagers and forced a smile to say hello. Everyone, long time no see. The villagers saw Nami returning to the room without saying a word. Nami, the only one in Kokoyashi village who didn't know, had a sad look in his eyes. Hey, don't you think it's a little too pitiful? Luffy complained to Nuo Chigao at the side. Nuo Chi took a high look at Nami and said in a low voice, everyone wants her to despair of us. Only in this way will Nami escape from here after being disappointed. Luffy shook his head. You guys underestimate Nami too. Nami is an absolutely kind person among the Straw Hats. Even in this situation, she is unwilling to hurt innocent people to complete her bet. Even if all the people in the village abandon her, she will continue to save everyone without hesitation. What? You actually passed by the village? Nuo Chigao asked Nami. You must know that even the strong Nami is not willing to see the indifferent faces the villagers put on her, even if it is fake. In Nami's view, it is a whiplash to her heart. I heard a loud noise, so come over and have a look. Nami thought about it, and then he looked at Luffy who appeared on the side again, and his expression became angry. What are you doing here? Luffy chuckled and didn't care about Nami's expression at all. Of course I'm here to destroy the Murlocs who rule here. After all, I'm also the colonel of the pirate headquarters, and I've made a deal with old man Garp. Nami stepped forward and grabbed Luffy by the collar. I don't care who you are, I have enough money, I can already buy back Kokoyashi village, and I don't need your marines' help. In the previous voyages, I was just pushing the boat along the river to get the treasure. The Mary is at the port. Hurry up and get out of here. If you destroy my plan, I will never let you go. Nami shouted excitedly at Luffy. Chapter 42. You are lucky. Advertisement. After Nami finished speaking, she pushed Luffy away with excitement and ran out of the village. She came back this time because she was worried that Arlong would not keep his promise and came to stop her. And the fact is the same, if it weren't for Luffy, Ajien would have been cold on the spot at this time. On a hillside, Nami weeps in front of a grave with her hands wrapped around her knees. There is Belle Mayer's grave. Nuo Chigao stepped out from behind a tree, looked at the lost Nami and joked to her, your reputation is still so bad. Nami raised his head and wiped his tears calmly, then smiled indifferently. It doesn't matter, I'm a pirate anyway, but Arlong seems to be a sensible guy, and everything can be solved with money, and the money he promised has finally been collected, and I can buy this village tomorrow. Speaking of this, Nami's face suddenly filled with a hopeful smile. Nuo Chigao sighed helplessly in the back, and didn't tell Nami about Ajian's almost death. Luffy stood on top of a big tree silently smoking a cigarette. At this time, he had an idea of finding Arlong in advance, using love to influence him, and let him sell Kokoyashi village to Nami. Because seeing Nami smile at this moment, Luffy knew how heartbroken it would be when the lie was exposed. Luffy disappeared from the treetop in an instant. Nami felt something in his heart and glanced at the tree, but it was empty. Did you meet a good partner during your voyage this time? Nuo Chigao walked forward slowly, lighting a lady's cigarette, and said. Thinking of Luffy's figure, Nami shook his head with gloomy eyes. It's just a joke. Advertisement. Really? Nuo Chigao didn't break through Nami's pretended calm. After buying the village tomorrow, you should leave with him. Go and fulfill your dream. Isn't it your dream to draw a world map? Nuo Chigao smiled at Nami. Nami lowered her head full of disappointment, covered her face and cried. He is a marine, and I am a pirate. I can't sail with him anymore. How will you know if you don't try? Nuo Chigao smiled and encouraged Nami, and a gust of sea breeze blew as if Belle Mel's hand brushed their faces. At this moment, Arlong led everyone back to Arlong Paradise with a gloomy face. Demon fruit power. Have any new faces come to these islands recently? Arlong asked the crowd viciously. Over the years of rule, Arlong knows the residents of the island well. If there is demon fruit power, it can only be outsiders. Everyone shook their heads when they heard the words. Only the kissing Murloc Achu spoke to Arlong thoughtfully. The only ones present are the two brothers Yu Da Yu who went to patrol Gasa town, and the two brothers are not here. Could it be them? What? The Murloc brothers will never betray brother Arlong. Xiao Ba emerged from the swimming pool and said loudly. Ajo's head was full of black lines and he said madly. I mean, the two of them have already been killed. Hey. Killed. Everyone fell silent when they heard the words, because they knew that what Aju said was probably true. They have been hanging around East Blue all the year round, and they have almost forgotten that once the Murlocs are discovered by the nobles of the world government, they will do everything possible to kill them or capture them as slaves. Advertisement. Arlong's face was a little livid, and he told Aju and the cartilage Murloc Crow Obi, you two lead a team to go to Gasa town to investigate. Damn the inferior people, is there Gasa town? The remnants of the gang called Marines, bounty hunters, and the like. Aju and Crow Obi nodded, and led a group of Murlocs to set off. Ajiu suddenly remembered what Nami said, and he asked Arlong, Brother Arlong, you won't really sell Kokoyashi village to Nami, will you? Arlong smiled triumphantly when he heard the words. Of course, instead of making me break the money agreement, it's better to ask me to kill myself by harakiri. I am this kind of man. Everyone looked at Arlong in astonishment, as if they didn't expect what Arlong said at this time. And Arlong grinned. Only after she gave us a full map of the world. The Murlocs laughed loudly when they heard the words. She will be in her late 70s by the time the world sea map is finished, right? At that time, we will be merciful and let her go back to the old age, shall I? Ha 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 ha. Besides, she can't get together the so-called 100 million Baileys. Who asked her to put the treasure map on the table in Arlong Paradise? I'm afraid that Colonel Mouse has already started to go treasure hunting by now, right? Haha, brother Arlong, you are really bad. Aju and Crow Obi laughed and led the team away from Arlong Paradise and headed towards Gasa town. At this time, Luffy is also heading towards the town of Gasa. Even if you don't take Arlong directly, help Marine, it doesn't matter to me as a colonel of naval headquarters, does it? Luffy looked at a warship on the sea level and said to himself. You are lucky to have met me. I just happen to be angry and want to find someone out. After saying that, Luffy got up and jumped into the sea. On the turbulent waves, Luffy walked towards the marine warship step by step as if walking on flat ground. Chapter 43. The 77th branch is destroyed. Open black lens bracket for more close black lens bracket. Advertisement. Hurry up. A little boy ran quickly in the jungle holding Nuo Chigao's hand. What's the matter? Nuo Chigao asked the little boy suspiciously. It's Marine. Marine is here. The little boy shouted excitedly while running. The surviving uncles in Gasa successfully got in touch with the government. Marine is here to pick us up. Soon the two came to a coast where many survivors who had escaped from Gasa gathered on the coast, and everyone looked expectantly at the figure of the warship in the distance. On the warship, the 77th Marine Commodore is speaking to the Marines on the deck. Is that the fabled Arlong's paradise? It's really the end of this world for pirates to settle down like that. Listen up, ladies and gentlemen, our mission today is to rescue the survivors of the town of Gasa, which was destroyed by Arlong's gang, from the island safely. But I think that if we clearly saw these arrogant pirate cities falling there, but pretended not to see them, will our justice forgive us? Commodore cheers up the Marines loudly. The soldiers below gave a sharp military salute and shouted Kaido, will not forgive. Very good. Commodore agreed loudly. This unit is now going to annihilate Arlong and his gang, and prepare for battle immediately. Yes. The crowd shouted excitedly. However, a Murloc suddenly jumped onto the deck. Dare to yell at us in this area of the sea. What a stupid human being. Ajiu put his hands in his pockets and sneered at the branch Commodore. I saw Aju's big mouth puffed out suddenly, and a water bomb comparable to a bullet directly knocked down the marine soldiers who were about to fire. Huh, you're the Arlongs, aren't you? Commodore said to Ajiu with a smug expression on his face. I am Commodore Brin of the 77th branch of the Marine. We are also a well-known first-class Marine elite unit. If you don't want to die, just surrender to us obediently. However, advertisement. The one who answered him was Achu, who fired a water bomb at close range, and the whole Commodore of the branch was sent flying in an instant. Damn it, you gave me Commodore. Everyone go together. However, a violent shock came, and the entire warship lost power in an instant. Nani, what happened? All the Marines looked around. Ajiu looked at the bewildered Marine proudly. I really bothered you. Sorry, we removed the rudder of this ship just now. Now I have a question for you. Did you kill our two Murloc brothers in Gasa town? Commodore held his chest and stood up with difficulty. What are you talking about? It's a stroke of luck, Lord Commodore, to avoid the vital point. Ajiu looked at the branch Commodore in surprise. But even so, the next thing waiting for you is death. You know what? If you move a huge reef into the middle of a strong current, guess what will happen at sea? Achu said with a terrified face. At this time, there was a violent vibration on the sea surface. Moving the reef. How is this possible? Brin Commodore looked at Aju in shock and said. However, a huge Uzumaki suddenly appeared in front of the warship. No, Commodore, there is a huge Uzumaki ahead, and our ship is out of order. A helmsman reported in horror. Didn't I say that? The rudder was removed by us. Achu laughed loudly. The destination of this ship is the deep sea. While speaking, the warship was suddenly broken in half by Uzumaki's huge suction. Numerous Marines were vortexed into the seabed along with the wreckage. Aju and Crow Obi looked at the scene in front of them excitedly. Advertisement. Having the advantage of our Murlocs on the bottom of the sea, coupled with Nami's perfect sea chart, it is enough for us to dominate the entire sea. Ha 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 ha. Ajiu laughed out loud outside Uzumaki. The villagers on the shore saw the sunken warship sitting on the ground in despair. Why is it like this? The little boy froze in despair. Nuo Chigao said calmly. This is the reality, we cannot escape Arlong's rule. Single quote. However, at this moment, a sharp-eyed villager suddenly saw a small black dot on the sea. Look, everyone, is there someone walking on the sea? How is it possible? Are you hallucinating? How do people leave on the sea? It's true. And a straw hat. Nuo Chigao suddenly turned his head to look at the sea. I saw Luffy's figure appearing beside the vortex, and the fierce vortex did not shake Luffy's figure at all. Who are you? Aju looked at Luffy in shock. He had never seen anyone standing above the surface of the sea. Luffy took a leisurely look at Aju. Me, Colonel Naval Headquarters, Monkey D. Luffy. Nani. Marine. Ajiyu tensed up instantly. I saw Luffy's hands forming mudras quickly, and a large amount of chakra was directly poured into the sea under his feet. Water-style waterfall water rush waves. Boom. Layers upon layers of monstrous waves set off. All the warships of the 77th branch that had been sunk into the bottom of the sea were all dragged on top of waves. Luffy single-handedly fights against the giant Uzumaki created by the Murlocs with ocean currents. Chapter 44. Kisame Template. Kill Cadres in seconds. Open black lens bracket 5th watch close black lens bracket. Advertisement. How can it be? All the Murlocs looked at Luffy who was stepping on the top of the waves in shock and asked loudly. Aju and Crow Obi stepped on the water and looked at Luffy's figure with a hint of fear in their hearts. Luffy swung the Samahata broadsword behind him twice in front of him. As expected of the Hoshigaki Kisame known as the Tailless Beast, the power of chakra who can turn Gobi into Wang Yang in the sea is really objective. Bryn Commodore looked at Luffy in shock on a broken deck and asked, I don't know who you are. The old man asked me to clear up the East Blue Murlocs, didn't he tell you? Luffy gave Bryn Commodore a sideways look and said. Linton was startled, remembering the instructions issued by the Marine headquarters 2 days ago, and nodded quickly. I said it. I said it. It turned out to be Master Luffy. Thank you, Master Luffy, for saving my life. Luffy looked at Bryn with disgust on his face. Your Commodore is really a bit watery, can't you beat this kind of scum? Bryn laughed awkwardly. Our East Blue Branch Commodore can't compare with you, young master, can it? Then he looked down at the huge wave that supported him, and swallowed hard, it was too terrifying. Luffy ignored the group of rookies no longer, and turned to look down at the Murlocs, who were like dumplings in a pot, one by one poking their heads out of the sea and looking at him in shock. Ajiyu asked Luffy with a serious face, you killed our 2 brothers in Gasa Town. Luffy raised his head, pretending to be thinking hard, and then looked at the Murloc below with a wicked smile. You mean those 2 horsebulls? I fed them to the sharks. The Murloc below suddenly felt a tremor all over his body, which was the instinctive fear of the body. Then the Murlocs came back to their senses and were furious. Damn inferior humans, dare to hurt the great Murlocs. Saying that, the Murlocs rushed towards Luffy directly along the waves of the waterfall. The Marines were frightened and exclaimed loudly, Colonel, be careful. These Murlocs are moving so fast in the water. Luffy looked at the dozens of Murlocs humming below and grinned, relying on the number of people. Luffy's hands quickly formed seals. 1,000 food shark. In an instant, thousands of sharks suddenly appeared in the water. Advertisement. What? The Murlocs were instantly terrified, completely unaware of how this group of sharks suddenly appeared. And these sharks are not ordinary sharks, but ninja sharks signed by Kisame and summoning. In terms of strength, they are not inferior to these ordinary Murlocs. Dozens of pairs thousands. This is completely one-sided massacre, or more like feeding. Almost instantly dozens of Murlocs were overwhelmed by countless sharks. There are only 2 cadres left, the Kissing Murloc and the Cartilage Murloc, barely supported by water bombs and Murloc karate. However, exhaustion is only a matter of time. A large amount of seawater was stained red by the Murloc's bright red blood, and Luffy looked at the tragic scene below indifferently and remained unmoved. Superior. I really don't know where you, a group of Murlocs, got the courage to show up. You're just a fool with no brains like slaves. Luffy looked at the 2 remaining cadres with a sneer and said. Murlocs are different from mermaids. Mermaids have human bodies and fish tails, and their way of thinking is more inclined to humans. And these Murlocs with crooked melons and jujubes are more accustomed to the jungle, and there are very few people with online IQs like Fisher Tiger and Jinbei. Even if Jinbei's mind is single-minded, some at war would rather be caught than make false promises to Marine first and then turn his back on him. At this time, these Murlocs were like beasts. Aju and Crow Obi stared at Luffy fiercely. Murloc karate. Kruby instantly knocked away the Murlocs around the 2 of them. Aju took the opportunity to shoot several water bombs straight at Luffy. Idiots are idiots. Can't you see the gap in strength between us? Luffy casually blocks Samahata in front of him. Advertisement. With a few puffs, the bandage tied on Samahata burst, and a terrifying creature with a big mouth and thorns all over appeared in front of Achu and Crow Obi. Samahata didn't know if he was particularly excited because of the powerful physical energy contained in the Murlocs of Otherworld. The twisting Samahata made Aju and Crow Obi feel extra terrified. What is this? Achu looked at Samahata Dao in shock. Luffy waved the shark in the water back to the summoning world. The whole person held the Samahata and rushed towards the 2 Murlocs in person on a huge wave. Since you want me to do it myself, then I will do it for you. It just so happens that your heads are still useful to me. The combined bounty of these 2 people is 14.5 million. If Nami leaves 100 million Baileys in Kokoyashi village, the future will not be too tight. Seeing Luffy coming towards him, Kruby was overjoyed. With his Murloc karate level 40 power, it is enough to break 1,000 tiles in the water. Fighting with him in the water, ordinary people will definitely die. 1,000 tiles or right fist. Kruby roared and threw it straight at Luffy. Luffy looked at Kruby as if he was mentally retarded, not to mention that he was now loaded with Kisami's strange power. Even Luffy's own strength is not comparable to this 900 Bailey's little guy. I saw that Luffy just swung Samahata and smashed it down. With a bang, there was a shocking wave in the sea. Under Achia's horrified eyes, Crow Obi's head was directly chopped off by Samahata's reverse scale. Achu yelled in horror and swam directly towards the deep sea. Luffy is a fast seal. Water-style big shrimp technique. A super large shark-shaped water bomb directly swallowed it. Chapter 45 My broadsword is already hungry. Advertisement. You bastards, if you dare to sneak attack next time, I will kill you all. Zoro rubbed his tied red wrist with a frantic face and cursed. Ah ha ha ha, a stopgap measure, this is just a stopgap measure. Usopp on the side waved his hand with a strange smile and said. Sanji had a cigarette in his mouth. Kaido said indifferently. Who told you to go directly to Arlong Paradise? If Ms. Nami dies because of you, I will make you pay for it. Nani, what are you talking about? A perverted cook. Want a fight, Chlorla? Sanji and Zoro immediately pressed against each other like old cows. Big brother, look, Marine is coming ashore. At this moment, Joseph pointed to a huge warship not far away and shouted. Marine, aren't we Marines too? Zoro turned his head and saw a warship with a huge 16 painted on its body slowly approaching the shore. The villagers of Kokoyashi village gathered around the warship with excited faces. The ship of the 16th branch. Could it be that the headquarters has finally taken action? At this time, Marines lined up on the boat, and Colonel Mouse walked off the boat with a strange smile and hands behind his back. GG, I'm Colonel Mouse of the 16th Marine Branch, call me Ajian, a police officer from Kekiasi village. At this moment, Ajian, with a windmill on his head, walked out of the crowd. I am Jian, Colonel. It's you, take me to the house of a woman named Nami. Nami. Ajian was startled. May I ask what's the matter? There was a sinister smile on Colonel Mouse's face. You just need to lead the way. Usopp and others gathered from behind the crowd frowned at Colonel Mouse. This guy looks so ugly, like a mouse. Looking at this face, I can't help but want to chop him up. Ah, he seems to be looking for Miss Nami's house. Can we find Miss Nami by following him? Could this be Luffy calling for support? Several people were discussing in the back, leisurely following behind Marine. The group soon came to the back mountain where Nami was. Advertisement. At this time, Nami is preparing to go to the treasure location to count the 100 million Baileys he has accumulated. As soon as I went out, I saw Jian and Marines walking towards me. Yo, Miss Nami. Sanji gave a loud cry that startled Colonel Mouse in front of him. Why are there still villagers following? Colonel Mouse frowned. But thinking of the upcoming editorial, he ignored Usopp and his party. Nami looked at the group of people with a deep frown and was startled. Marine. Zoro and them. Could it be Luffy calling for support? B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** Arlong. When Nami was a child, he saw 5 warships sunk by Arlong right under his nose. But why is Mr. Jian here? At this time, Colonel Mouse walked out slowly. Ji, you are the thief named Nami. According to our investigation, the treasure you dropped from the pirates is hidden in the orange field, right? Single quote. Nami's face changed drastically upon hearing this. Jian, who was leading the way behind him, instantly showed a jealous and angry expression. The other party is a pirate, so I won't blame you, but a thief is a thief, so all the property you stole should now be confiscated by our government. Colonel Mouse said with a sinister smile. The Marines behind them showed mocking smiles. Okay, hand over all the stolen goods. Confiscate. Nami was startled at first, then she calmed down, she curled her lips and smiled. This is really an accident, you are really keen on your work, because you don't have the courage to fight against the pirates, you come to find a thief to give yourself extra points. Really, it's amazing. Let me give you a piece of advice first, I am the cadre of Arlong's group. If you dare to touch me, Arlong will not sit idly by. Colonel Mouse laughed softly. You think I'm afraid of this? Find the stolen goods for me. Arlong's gang, isn't that the Murloc that Luffy said he was going to hunt down? Why did Nami become a pirate? Usopp and the others muttered in surprise. Seeing the Marines walking towards the orange field, Nami became extremely excited. Is this what you Marines should be doing now? The Arlongs didn't just kill people, they destroyed entire towns. They still rule the island, trampling on human lives everywhere. And you are ignoring this big problem and taking stolen goods from a thief. Is this the government's intention? Advertisement. Colonel Mouse was in collusion with Arlong, so naturally he didn't explain Nami's questioning. He shouted again to the stopped Marine, continue to search. Zoro and others behind him also found something wrong. At this time, Nami excitedly took out the 3-section stick on his chest, and rushed directly to the Marines. People on the whole island have been waiting for your Marines' rescue for so many years. You can still ignore those people and come to me. Colonel, our mission to this orange field is very suspicious. Dug him out. Nami's pupils shrank, and he knocked down a Marine with a stick. Don't use your dirty hands to Belle-Mel's orange field. My money will not be handed over to you, that money is, which money is? Nami yelled unconsciously. At this moment, Ajian yelled loudly, the money is used by this kid to save this Kokoyasi village. Even so, do you still have the right to take away the money? Marine. Nami froze in place when she heard Ajian's shout. Why would Mr. Jian? Ajian looked at Nami with distressed expression. We already knew, Nami. Nami's psychological defense suddenly collapsed. She always thought that she was fighting alone, and tears flowed from her eyes. Colonel Mouse glanced at Jian mockingly. What? The mere police officer also wants to lecture me, Colonel Marine. Colonel, a coffin has been dug. What? Colonel Mouse excitedly walked towards the soldier. The rest of the soldiers stopped in front of Nami to prevent Nami from passing. That's my money, Nami yelled in despair. At this moment, Sanji took a deep breath of the cigarette, threw the handle of the cigarette on the ground and stomped on it with his foot. Hey, green algae head. You don't need to tell me. Zoro slowly pulled out the word, Hidao. My big knife is already hungry and thirsty. Chapter 46 There are people above us. Advertisement. Colonel Mouse excitedly looked at the treasure and Bailey in a coffin, and was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth from ear to ear. Bailey and the treasure are stained red with Nami's blood. Hey, get your hands off Miss Nami's Bailey. Sanji walked forward slowly with his hands in his pockets. Zoro pointed at Colonel Mouse with a word of peace. This is the navigator appointed by our captain. Colonel Mouse looked at Zoro and the others with contempt. Who are you? How dare you stop Marine? Are you not afraid of being wanted? The Marine we know is not a scum like you. That's right, Big Brother Luffy won't be as mean and shameless as you. Joseph and Johnny also showed their weapons. Usopp hid behind the wall of the house and loudly cheered. Go. Zoro, Sanji kill them. Then he also took out the Imperial slingshot. Nami looked at Zoro and his party with a complicated expression, and she also knew that Zoro was not with this group of Marines. Ajien looked at Nami and said happily, it seems that you have met a group of good partners. Actually, we knew from the earliest days that you joined Arlong's gang for the sake of the village, but we kept pretending not to know, just hoping that one day you would not be a stumbling block when you wanted to escape from Arlong. How so? Nami's heart is full of complexity and emotion. Colonel Mouse waved his hand impatiently. Go and arrest all these people. If you dare to resist, you will be shot. Usopp was the first to yell. Kill Gunpowder Star. A fire bomb hit Colonel Mouse directly in the face, and Colonel Mouse screamed in pain for a moment. Kill them for me. Zoro tied the hood around his forehead and smiled excitedly. Advertisement. Sanji rushed forward directly. You actually made beautiful Ms. Nami cry. You were really guilty of the heinous crime. Banquet table and kick package. For a while, Marine was turned on his back by the attack of the two main straw hats. Colonel Mouse was shocked when he saw the beaten Marine. Damn it. Arlong didn't say that there are such powerful guys here. Nami's face changed upon hearing this. Are you sent by Arlong? Colonel Mouse immediately kept silent, and shouted at the Marines. Quick. Use a gun. Kill them. Marine in the back row didn't hold back his hands at all and directly raised his firecrackers to aim at Zoro, Nami and others. Hey, you nasty bastards. Are you still a Marine? When Zoro and others fought before, because the opponent was Marine, they didn't kill them. Colonel Mouse looked at Zoro with disdain and scolded. How can we show mercy when dealing with you vicious criminals? Zoro frowned suddenly. Looking at this group of obstinate Marines, I feel a little headache. As the deputy captain, he is calmer than Luffy at certain times, and in his opinion, killing these Marines is not a good thing for Luffy. After all, they are both Marines, so he doesn't know if killing this group of Marines directly will have any impact on Luffy. Shot. Colonel Mouse shouted. Many Marines were just about to pull the trigger, but suddenly a burst of gunfire came from the other side. All of a sudden, Colonel Mouse's subordinates fell to the spot one by one, blood spattered everywhere. Everyone looked in the direction of the gunshot in astonishment. I saw Luffy holding the fish heads of Kissing Murloc and Kruby in his hands, followed by the Commodore and Marines from Branch 77 appearing in everyone's field of vision. And the firecrackers in the hands of the sailors were still emitting wisps of smoke. It was obvious that the bullets had been fired from their hands. Shouldn't you die at the hands of the dragon pirates? Advertisement. Colonel Mouse looked at the bandaged Commodore in horror. Obviously, I have already told him the news of Branch 77, so now he should be buried in the belly of a fish. Then Colonel Mouse suddenly reacted and asked loudly, how dare you take action against your colleagues? Could it be that Arlong wants to monopolize the 100 million Bailey? Looking at Colonel Mouse who looked like a clown, Luffy's eyes were full of disgust. Sometimes you moths are even more hateful than pirates. Luffy went straight to Colonel Mouse. Colonel Mouse saw at a glance that the two heads in Luffy's hands were the heads of the dragon pirates' cadres, and he asked Luffy in horror, who are you? Colonel Naval Headquarters, Monkey D. Luffy. Colonel Mouse's pupils shrank when he heard the words. He remembered that his subordinates reported to himself a few days ago that a colonel from the headquarters might come to inspect in the near future, and asked all branches to follow their arrangements. Originally, Colonel Mouse thought it was just a formality, so he didn't care. He never thought that Luffy would appear in front of him in this way. It turned out to be Colonel Luffy. You see, I have found a treasure stolen by a thief for the government, and I am about to hand it over to you. Colonel Mouse said to Luffy ingratiatingly. Luffy casually picked up a firecracker from the ground and pointed it at Colonel Mouse's head. What a coincidence, the thief you mentioned is the navigator on my ship, and it's even more unfortunate that there is one of the 100 million Baileys that I opened for her. Wages. Colonel Mouse's face changed greatly when he heard this. You can't kill me. Even if I'm guilty, I have to go to the trial court for sentencing. Bang. A gunshot directly interrupted Colonel Mouse's unfinished words. Luffy threw away the gun, and walked slowly past Zoro towards Nami. Hey, is this really appropriate? Zoro looked at Colonel Mouse with a hole in his head and grinned. Don't turn us into pirates if you play like this. Luffy gave Zoro a blank look. In the future, you don't have to keep your hands on this kind of scum. I will be responsible for what happens. Then Luffy paused and said with a smile. There are people above us. Chapter 47 Sorry for being late. Advertisement. Luffy walked to Nami's side at this time. The figure with its head in its hands looked particularly terrifying. However, Nami did not have the slightest fear. She raised her head to reveal a cat face with pear blossoms and rain. Nami's mind was filled with the echo of Arlong's terrifying laugh. Single quote. Arlong, Arlong. Nami cried to Luffy with a voice full of despair. Luffy, help me. Luffy patted Nami's head lightly, and put the straw hat on Nami's head. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji and others walked slowly to Luffy's side. Luffy raised his head, showing an extremely ferocious expression. Very well, little ones, don't be patient anymore, let's start working. Then Luffy turned to Nami and smiled. Nami, lend me your 100 million Bailey. Nami lifted her head sobbing, not knowing what Luffy meant. Zoro walked up to the coffin containing 100 million Baileys, and put his hands on his shoulders. Of course the captain meant to redeem Kokoyasi village. At this time, a large number of villagers also surrounded from all directions. They held kitchen knives and hoes, and everyone looked fearless in their eyes. Ajien also took out the only long knife in the village and said firmly to Luffy, let us fight together. We swore 8 years ago that you sacrifice your life so easily, no matter how painful and humiliating their rule is, as long as Nami lives well, we will continue to fight this battle of endurance. However, they gave such an answer. Since the breakthrough to liberate the village has been closed, we have no hope, even if we die, we must not become a stumbling block for Nami. Advertisement. And playing with the kindness of Nami's child like this, we must not spare those murlocs. Nami, but we watched her grow up together. We watch Nami's happiness every day as our future, and now they destroyed it all. We want revenge on the murlocs. Ajien turned his head and asked loudly to the surrounding villagers, do you have any objections? How could there be? Everyone has been waiting impatiently for a long time. Everyone has been waiting for this moment. Everyone responded loudly to Jien. Nami watched the brave villagers burst into tears. Then everyone looked at the leader Luffy. Luffy didn't speak at first, then reached out and took the cloak of justice handed over by Usopp, put it on his back, looked at the villagers and said. My name is Luffy, and I'm a Marine Colonel. It's our Marine's duty to wipe out pirates. I'm sorry for being a little late, but it's not your turn to take action before we fall, not to mention that Nami is still my sailor. Scholar. So, please wait patiently, don't let down the hard work of our navigators in the past 8 years, the rest will be left to us. After speaking, Luffy turned around and walked towards Arlong's paradise. Zoro, Sanji, Usopp and others followed in turn. The sea breeze made the cloak on Luffy whistling, and the word, justice, on the back made the villagers of Kokoyasi village feel a little warmth for the first time. Lord Luffy, what about us? Commodore Brin of the 77th branch rubbed his hands and walked forward. Since everyone was rescued by Luffy on the coast, they obeyed Luffy's orders. Even if he shot Colonel Mouse who was in the 16th branch before, he didn't hesitate at all. Advertisement. Luffy glanced at Brin meaningfully. Arrange soldiers to protect the villagers, in case murlocs who are not in Arlong's paradise hurt them. One hair is missing, you Commodore don't have to do it. Yes. Everyone saluted Luffy one after another, and surrounded the villagers in all directions. This is not only protection, but also to prevent this group of unarmed people from going to the murlocs to commit suicide. Looking at the scene in front of him, Nami breathed a sigh of relief. For the first time, she no longer had to carry the lives of the entire village on her own, but someone else took on this responsibility. Nami supported the straw hat on her head and burst into tears. This was the first time that she completely let go of everything since Belle Mel died and swore not to cry anymore. Soon, the shadow of Arlong Paradise slowly appeared in front of Luffy and the others. Facing the huge stone gate, Luffy held the heads of 2 cadres and stood at the gate of Arlong Paradise. Call the door. Zoro grinned, pulled out Hidauyi and aimed at Shimon. Got it. With a bang, under Arlong's surprised eyes, 2 fish heads were thrown directly at Arlong's feet along with the dust. Arlong's fish eyes exploded instantly, and he yelled furiously, compatriots. Chirp, Kruby, who is it? The figures of Luffy and the others slowly walked out of the smoke. Hey, Arlong, how about the greeting? We came to you to redeem Kokoyasi village. Luffy's ethereal voice echoed directly in the silent Arlong Paradise. Chapter 48 I don't want to see any living animals. Advertisement. Arlong stared at Luffy fiercely. Who are you? Then he looked at the justice cloak behind Luffy, Marine. Luffy smiled and said to Arlong, I heard that you made a bet with us navigators. Want to use 100 million to redeem Kokoyasi village. Look, I not only brought 100 million Baileys, but also spared you 14 million Baileys. These 2 murlocs and pirates also have 14.5 million bounties. How about it? Am I being generous? Luffy spoke to Arlong with a smile. On the opposite side, Arlong's eyes were red and bloodshot. You're looking for death. Kill him. A large group of murlocs jumped out of the pool in Arlong Paradise again and killed Luffy and the others. Luffy continued to walk forward indifferently, because he knew that Zoro and Sanji would not let any of them get close to him. 3 swords tornado. Fried mixed platter. The 2 kicked the murloc minions away instantly. Without the constraints of the 2 cadres, the strength of Zoro and Sanji at this time is absolutely crushing. The murloc pirates, who were 10 times stronger than ordinary soldiers, had no equal in their hands. Arlong looked at Luffy who was getting closer with a livid face, and slowly stood up. You guys, what are you? And what responded to him was the Samahata broadsword with the sound of howling wind. Nani. Arlong didn't even know what to do when he was smashed into rubble by a wall. Hitting you will dirty my hands. Luffy waved Samahata in his hand slowly, and the bandages were untied immediately, Samahata baring his teeth and claws made all the murlocs terrified. A mere inferior race dares to speak so brazenly. Arlong suddenly jumped up from the ruins and rushed straight towards Luffy. Advertisement. Inferior race. Luffy sneered, you murlocs are very good slaves in the eyes of the nobles of the world. As a leader of the Sun Pirates, have you even forgotten this? Arlong's face suddenly changed. How do you know that? You be asterisk 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 D. You must know that Fisher Tiger has always been Arlong's idol, but unlike him, Fisher Tiger hopes to live in peace with resolving conflicts with humans. But Arlong is an out-and-out racist. Xiaoba, go and call Momu. Arlong yelled into the water. Suddenly, an octopus squeezed its mouth and blew a horn toward the sky. All of you just wait to be his bait. Xiaoba laughed loudly after blowing the horn. Soon there were huge waves on the sea, and the entire Arlong park began to shake uncontrollably. What? Zoro and Sanji frowned and looked out of the port, only to see a huge sea monster with the body of a bullhead fish appearing outside Arlong's paradise. This is the scary sea monster we brought back from the Grand Line. Come out, Mumu. Xiaoba shouted excitedly at the sea beast. Luffy ignored Xiaoba's self-promotion completely lazily, waved his left hand lightly, as if cheering him up, and Luffy began to emit white air. Second gear. Luffy waved his arm, although what he ate was Zone Human Fruit Phantom Beast Nika form. But Devil Fruit's ability needs to be developed by the capable person. Who knows what Nika is, even though he knows it is the Sun God. But no matter how you look at it, the legend of the Sun God is more like an ordinary person who ate rubber fruit was spread because he saved the slaves. Compared with developing the so-called Sun God fruit, it is better to honestly learn the relevant abilities of rubber fruit first. At this time, Luffy has mastered the second gear form early by virtue of the template bonus. Advertisement. Coupled with Kisami's huge strength and Orochimaru's fluid transformation, Luffy's strength has once again ushered in a surge. With a wave of Luffy's hand, the right hand holding Samahata stretched out and hit the house in Arlong Paradise nearby. There was a bang. The Arlong Paradise that trapped Nami for 8 years turned into a pile of ruins in an instant. Arlong looked at Luffy with a livid face. Here are all the nautical charts that Nami has drawn in the past 8 years. Arlong is also counting on these charts to create natural disasters and dominate the sea. Demon fruit power. Arlong saw the change of Luffy's arm. Are you the demon fruit power that killed the two brothers Yu? Ah, you mean those two stupid fish. Luffy pretended to be suddenly enlightened, and then used the water body technique and transformation technique. Two murlocs appeared in front of Arlong again. Ah, it's Arlong who wants to kill us, he colludes with the world government and wants to sell us as slaves. The veins on Arlong's forehead were exposed, and he yelled at Xiaoba, give it to me. Follow Momu and go kill them. The manatee let out a low growl and opened its mouth wide to swallow Luffy and the others. All the murlocs that could still move stood on Momu's back and attacked Luffy and the others. A creature on the Grand Line. Zoro stood in front of Momo holding the Hidao character and 2 broken knives he had picked up. Sanji also lit a cigarette and took a step forward. Only after tens of thousands of beatings, the beef balls will become firm and elastic. Luffy didn't even look at it, and said lightly, don't keep your hands, I don't want to see any living beast. Then Luffy disappeared directly in front of Arlong's eyes. Second gear. Comparable to shaving speed with Sheng Shui body flicker technique. Chapter 49 Afraid of Water. Non-existent. Open black lens bracket ask for flowers close black lens bracket. Advertisement. A groan of pain started the battle of vengeance. Luffy is not a righteous Ultraman, and naturally he doesn't have to wait until he runs out of energy before killing little monsters in seconds. Wong Luffy is not the Luffy in the original book either. With his current strength against Arlong, it is like a grandfather beating a grandson. And the reason why he didn't kill Arlong directly is purely that Luffy didn't want Arlong to die too comfortably. He wanted Arlong to recall the pain of being chased by humans when he was hiding in hiding. Luffy didn't feel the slightest bit of Nika's will that the 5 elders were talking about. At this time, Samahata in Luffy's hand hit Arlong flying around like a bat. The barbs on Samahata made Luffy scrape a piece of flesh off Arlong with every blow. Ling Kai. One of the cruelest punishments in Luffy's previous life. At this time, Arlong was experiencing this punishment for himself, and with the blessing of the Murloc's powerful body, Luffy did not worry at all that Arlong would die prematurely. On the other side, Zoro and Sanji stopped holding back after receiving the order. Zoro is a pirate hunter. Sanji, who suffered from his father and grew up in the battle restaurant Barati, will only show mercy to starving castaways and women. For this group of guys who are not even human, Sanji's kicks completely inherited the title of Zapu's red feet, and the moves greeted the Murloc's vitals. Even because he is familiar with fish as a sea chef, Sanji can more accurately distinguish the species of Murlocs and launch a fatal blow to them. Only Usopp is trembling on the spot with a slingshot in hand, and he is the only one in the current main team who was born in a wild way that no one taught him at all. I haven't even touched a gun since I was a child. Zoro, come on, cut off his brains, let him go in and out. Sanji, kick him shitbag, let him go in with black feet and come out with yellow feet. Advertisement. Sanji, Zoro, shut up. Usopp closed his mouth awkwardly, and began to shoot the group of Murlocs with steel balls. It's a pity that at this time, with his slingshot, even with his extraordinary talent, his lethality against Murlocs is extremely limited. Luffy smashed Arlong into the air again, and Arlong was already covered in blood. Inferior race. Weak humans. I don't know how you feel now. The Samahata in Luffy's hand at this time has become extraordinarily huge due to devouring Arlong's flesh and blood. Samahata with a huge mouth stretched out his tongue to lick the blood on his body, which looked very strange. But, damn it, how could you be so strong? Arlong looked at the unharmed Luffy in disbelief. After all, he also stayed in the Sun Pirates. With his eyesight, he could only catch an afterimage of Luffy. Trying to keep up with Luffy's movements is just a dream. Arlong looked around, and found that there were not even one Murloc in 10 at this time. Moo Moo, a giant manatee, also became covered in bruises. Everyone, retreat to the sea. Arlong yelled and jumped straight into the sea himself. Brother Luffy, don't let him enter the water. The Murloc's strength in the water must be increased several times. Joseph and Johnny, who were waving the flag and shouting, reminded loudly when they saw this scene. However, Luffy did not stop Arlong's movement at all, allowing him to jump into the sea. And the Murlocs who fought with Sanji and Zoro jumped into the sea one after another. Advertisement. Panting, Zoro looked at the remaining Murlocs and shouted, B*********************************** D. I don't have time to play hide and seek with you. Sanji glanced at Zoro. The guy's knife wound would be fatal to any ordinary person. The fact that she can do this with sheer willpower makes Sanji admire Zoro. Hey, green algae head, leave it to me, I think you are here. Sanji took a deep breath and said. Ah, Zoro looked at Sanji dissatisfied, it's still early just because of these Murlocs. Hole, don't you have B points for your own injuries? It's up to you, I won't have any problems fighting another 300 rounds. The two of them quarreled as they put their heads together. Arlong poked his head out of the water and looked at Luffy proudly, come down. Demon fruit power doesn't seem to be water resistant, right? After you leave, I will kill all the villagers in Kakuyasi village. Make Nami feel what despair is. D. Zoro and Sanji turned to look at Arlong angrily. Arlong stared at Luffy and the others unscrupulously, as if he had settled on Luffy's weakness of not being able to go into the water as a demon fruit power. Luffy walked to the edge of the pool with a sneer. If you just ran away, you might still have a chance, but it's too late now. Don't be ashamed. Come down if you have the guts. Arlong spat at Luffy proudly, predicting that Luffy, as a demon fruit power, would not dare to go into the water to make trouble for him. Sanji and Zoro also frowned and looked at Luffy and asked, demon fruit power is afraid of water. Luffy nodded. Other demon fruit powers are indeed afraid of water. The two were taken aback when they heard the words, others. I saw Luffy grinning. In the astonished eyes of everyone, he slowly walked to the surface of the water. That's right, other. Chapter 50 Arlong is dead, I want 10 young ladies. Advertisement. How can it be? Arlong looked at Luffy walking on the water in astonishment, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. The originally arrogant Murlocs scattered around and stared at Luffy in horror. Arlong watched Luffy stand still in his sleep and swallowed hard. The only person he's ever seen with such abilities in the Sun Pirates is the guy who was now Admiral. Aokiji. Damn it, what the hell are you demon fruit power? Arlong looked at Luffy in shock. Martin fruit. Luffy grinned, Martin, every morning you wake up. Arlong. Damn it, no matter what kind of fruit ability user you are, even if you can walk on the water, you still can't get into the water in the end. Arlong panicked and sank into the water. Yeah. Luffy smiled slightly at Arlong's smug figure. The Samahata in his hand started to melt and merge with it. It was a bit ugly at first, and I didn't want to use this form, but in order to let you feel what despair is, so I tell you, even if you hide in the deepest part of the sea, I will catch you back and tear you into pieces. In the shocked eyes of everyone, Luffy's appearance turned into a half-mermaid appearance after fusion. The transformation form of the big sword Samahata. In this state, Luffy can fly freely in the water and has the ability to devour chakra and sense chakra. Arlong stared at Luffy in horror and shouted, what the hell are you? Then he turned his head and swam towards the deep sea and shouted at the Murlocs, run. The remaining Murlocs could no longer bear the fear and fled in all directions. Advertisement. But Luffy wasn't going to let them go so easily. I saw him receive the lead instantly, with his arms open, water style who shows off the dam. The huge amount of seawater directly forms a huge mountain-like water prison. A dozen or so scattered Murlocs were trapped in the water polo like ants. How is it possible? Is this the sea god? A Murloc stared blankly at his figure suspended in midair. At this time, the villagers of the entire island saw the huge water prison towering into the sky, as well as Arlong and Luffy in the water prison. Is that Arlong? Who is he fighting? Why do I get the feeling that Arlong is running away? No way. That's Arlong. Only the survivors of Gosa Town and the villagers of Kokoyasi village, who had witnessed the killing of Arlong cadres, looked at the water polo with excitement. Master Luffy is so powerful. Nami stared blankly at the water polo in the air, as if he couldn't believe that such a powerful Arlong would run away like a bereaved dog. Arlong, want to know how those two cadres and compatriots of yours died? Luffy looked at the scurrying Murlocs and laughed, summoning 1,000 food sharks. Immediately thousands of ninja sharks were summoned by Luffy summoning. Murlocs are 10 times stronger than ordinary humans, but the strength of fish in water is more than 10 times stronger than humans, not to mention that this is a specially bred ninja beast. Thousands of sharks rushed towards the Murlocs like a submarine. Arlong looked at the scene in horror and finally felt deep regret in his heart. It is obvious that the strength of human beings is far superior to that of the Murlocs, so why does he come to the human country to do his best? Arlong begged Luffy tremblingly. Please, let me go. I swear I will never appear in Kokoyasi village again. No, I will never appear in the human world again. Luffy put away his smile and looked at Arlong coldly. Go tell the villagers you killed before. Advertisement. All of a sudden, countless sharks rushed towards Arlong cruelly. Originally, Arlong managed to kill several sharks with his own strength, but with the blood flowing, the sharks fell into a frenzy. And Arlong also began to wear down due to the excessive bloodshed in the previous battle with Luffy. No, help me, I don't want to die. Arlong's terrified cries spread throughout the island through special sound waves. As everyone watches, Arlong, the bully who rules over 20 towns on the island, turns into shark bait. The whole water dungeon was stained red with blood, and with Arlong's tragic death, the dragon pirates were completely wiped out. With a bang, the huge water prison melted into the sea with the blood of the Murlocs wrapped in it, as if it had never appeared before. Bryn Commodore brought Nami and the villagers of Kokoyasi village to the ruined Arlong paradise. Luffy withdrew Samahata from his body, and the strong 8-pack abs were covered with a layer of divine brilliance under the sunlight. He walked up to Nami slowly, reached out and put the straw hat back on his head. Welcome back, little navigator. Nami burst into tears and threw herself into Luffy's arms. The villagers in Kokoyasi village looked at each other and happily threw the farm tools in their hands into the sky. Arlong is dead. We are liberated. Long live Luffy. Long live Marine. Looking at the excited villagers, Luffy held Nami in one hand and raised his hand high and shouted, Yushi, the banquet is here. I want 10 girls. Nami, go to hell. Boom. Chapter 51 Carnival. Nami returns home. Advertisement. Catchy. Look, here's the spoils I saved from killing Arlong. The Murloc Arlong's sharp teeth are said to be teeth that can crush stones. Even if the whole body is swallowed by sharks, the fangs in this mouth still remain. At this time, in Kokoyasi village, Usopp stood on a high platform holding a mouthful of huge fangs and boasted loudly. A large group of villagers below looked at Usopp with golden eyes and cheered loudly. Sanji hugged the two young ladies in one hand and was in high spirits. Only Zoro struggled to get up from the bed to drink and was pinned down on the bed by the old doctor in Kokoyasi village. B*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** How is it possible? I'll drink another 10 barrels and nothing will happen. Our long paradise is broken. We are free. The villagers cheered loudly holding the tattered flag of the dragon pirates. Let's have a carnival. Let's have a banquet. We have been waiting for this day for 8 years. Let's party. Today, tomorrow, and even the day after tomorrow, until we are too tired to move. Ah, Nuaochigao's big sister, Chapo, the surviving little boy in Gosa town, ran to Nuaochigao and cheered loudly. I went to Arlong Paradise to see it. It was amazing. Everything was beaten to pieces. Nuochigao smiled and took a big sip of rum and said, how is it? Very powerful, right? Chapo danced excitedly, as expected of Lord Luffy. You are so strong. Where is Lord Luffy? Nuochigao pointed at a figure in the crowd who was binge eating and drinking and pouted. He also said that he had to find 10 results, and when the food came up, he immediately started the gluttony mode. Luffy was also a little helpless. He didn't expect that the second gear would consume so much for him at this time. Advertisement. If it wasn't for the fact that Samahata's sword had restored him some of his strength by eating the murlocs, Luffy even doubted that he wouldn't be able to survive the banquet. At this time, a group of girls around Luffy were feeding Luffy with red eyes. At this time, Luffy was simply a perfect man in their hearts. Young, powerful, savior, marine, good figure, strong physique, cough cough. The banquet lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, and Luffy also ate for 3 days and 3 nights. Under the dual effects of life return and rubber fruit, Luffy finally returned to his peak state. Yaoshi, let's strike up a conversation. Luffy stretched a lot, looked around, but found that everyone was already lying on the ground so tired and fell asleep. Luffy glanced at Sanji who was hugging left and right with disdain. Damn, you actually took advantage of others. Luffy, who can't find a girl, is going to find Nami to have a good rest. Huh, where's the person? Luffy observation Haki found that Nami was not at the banquet. Expanding the range, Luffy vaguely sensed a direction. Without hesitation, Luffy wandered up the hill. A cross is erected on one of the tombs. Nami was kneeling in front of the grave and looking at the sea in the distance, with an excited smile on his face. Nuochigao on the side was sleeping soundly on Nami's lap. The scenery here is nice. Luffy smiled and said to Nami, I've been looking for you for a long time. Luffy. Nami turned around in surprise, as if she didn't expect Luffy to find this place. I said, Luffy, you said if Belle Mel was still alive, would she be happy to hear that first was Marine? Luffy smiled slightly when he heard the words. Of course, I heard you say that Belle Mel is a warrior who never surrendered to the pirates until his death. Advertisement. The smile on Nami's face became more obvious. She gently leaned her head on the shoulder of Luffy who was sitting aside, and said softly, thank you. Luffy smiled slightly. At this moment, he really felt the blood and emotion brought by Luffy's adventure in the original play. And far surpassing the happiness of Luffy, the straight man of steel, he gently hugged Nami who was sleeping on his shoulder, and it really was the beginning of Tianhu. After this battle, his reputation has probably been passed to the five elders for the record, right? No, it should be said to be Zone Human Fruit Phantom Beast Nika form. It is said that Rubber Fruit and World Government are incompatible. Luffy never thought of it that way. Five elders have said they've been trying to control Rubber Fruit for 800 years. But Rubber Fruit is extremely difficult to obtain as if avoiding the World Government. At this moment, Luffy joins Marine as a Rubber Fruit demonic ability user. This will greatly attract the attention of the World Government. Obliterate. Just kidding. After all, there is a Nika fruit user who is willing to join the World Government, but he wants to kill it and let the fruit spread to the sea again. Luffy believes that from then on, as long as he is still in the Marine camp, the five elders will not give up this opportunity to control Rubber Fruit. 77th Marine Branch. Mossy. Hi, this is Marine Headquarters. This is the 77th branch of the Marine Commodore Brin Brin, Marine number 00701, now report to the headquarters. I can hear you without being so excited. Listen, Naval Headquarters Colonel Monkey D. Luffy has wiped out all the evil dragons in the invincible Erlong Paradise. And he will also kill Colonel Mouse, the 16th branch that colluded with the evil dragon pirates to search for civilians. FA rectification. The task of clearing the Murlocs assigned by Vice Admiral Garp has been completed. I would like to ask for credit. Understood. Received. Chapter 52 Set Sail, A New Adventure. Advertisement. Ah, a scream sounded in the orange grove. With Luffy's scream, the morning sun cast a ray of light from a distance. B*********** D Luffy, what did you do to us? Nami yelled at Luffy under the bed angrily, clutching his chest. Nuo Chigao covered her mouth and laughed happily. Luffy looked at Nami with an innocent face and spread his hands. Oh my god, I didn't do anything. Yesterday you were too tired and fell asleep on my shoulder, and Nuo Chigao fell asleep on your lap. I'm afraid you caught a cold so I moved you back home. Then why are you in bed? Nami looked at Luffy suspiciously and asked. Last night, you two hugged me and insisted that I was Bell Mel, and you couldn't pull it away. Then I could only lie on the bed and sleep with you. Luffy explained helplessly. Really? Nami asked Luffy suspiciously. Whether he is true or not, at worst, he should repay his life-saving grace with a promise of his own body. Nuo Chigao said with a teasing face. Under the influence of Bell Mel, in order to cooperate with Nami's acting, Nuo Chigao developed a bad character that is more rogue than Nami's siren. Nami gave Nuo Chigao a white look, and looked at Luffy softly. What Nuo Chigao said is indeed true, and the kindness of saving the village is not a big deal even if it is promised by body. In the past 8 years, she has had a much worse life than this. Nami, are you home? Ah Jian's voice sounded from outside the door. Advertisement. Ah Jian entered the door and saw the 3 people in disheveled clothes, and immediately spurted out a mouthful of old blood. Ahem, do you believe me when I say this is a misunderstanding? Luffy said to Jian with a serious face, this guy is like a father to Nami and Nuo Chigao. Nuo Chigao suddenly put on a cute and pitiful expression. Some people even put up their pants and refused to admit it. Nami on the side also had a smirk on his face, and said to Jian, that is to say, Jian, you have to be the master for us. Luffy. With a whoosh, Luffy rushed out of the house, and Ah Jian chased him out with his face flushed with anger. Nami and Noki Gao in the room laughed, waiting to catch up to a hillside. Luffy stopped, and a Jian, who was panting behind him, sat down on the ground. You really can run. Luffy spread his hands and smiled. A Jian was silent for a while and said, Nami is going to follow you to the sea. This must be a dangerous journey. It is impossible, but it doesn't matter. But if you dare to make her lose her precious smile, I will definitely to kill you. Luffy looked at the grave bag on the top of the mountain and gave a thumbs up. Don't you look at who I am. No one can compare in terms of background, and I have the background in terms of strength. From now on, there must be only joy to accompany Nami. Ajian nodded in satisfaction when he heard the words, and walked towards Bell's grave on his own. Aren't you going to see Nami off? Luffy smiled at Jian and said. No need, her smile is no longer my old guardian. Ajian waved his hand and took off the windmill above his head, and silently inserted it in front of Bell Mel's grave. Luffy smiled slightly. Unlike Hokage, where most of the characters are extremist snake spirits, most of the civilians Luffy met in Pirates were positive, which is why Luffy was very moved in his previous life. Advertisement. At this time, Nami looked around at the tables and chairs in the orange room, and memories of Bell and Mel flowed into Nami's heart. Holding a photo of Bell Mel in her hand, Nami said to herself. It's all over, Belmel. Although it took 8 years, I finally got freedom. I and everyone else are like Bell Mel said, as long as we live, there will be happy things to come. Sure enough, it's true. Everyone in the village laughed so happily. I'm planning to leave this island. It doesn't matter. There is nothing to worry about. They are all good people. They are Marines like you, and they are very powerful. This time I'm going to draw the sea chart for myself, and for my dream, I'm going to travel around the world with my friends. Nuo Chigao on the bed looked at Nami's excited expression and showed a satisfied smile. Are you leaving? Nami nodded. Go. I have been living for others for so many years, now it is finally my turn. Nuo Chigao said to Nami with a smile. Will you come with me? Nami asked expectantly. Luffy sure doesn't mind having an extra crew member. Me. Nuo Chigao was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, I don't have the dream of going to sea, and I also have to take care of this orange grove in Bell Mel, and when you come back someday, you will have these sour oranges to eat. Woolen cloth. Nami looked at Nuo Chigao apologetically. Nuo Chigao waved his hand indifferently. My dream is not in the sea. Nami nodded, picked up his small backpack and walked out of the house. While standing at the door, Nami felt a gentle push from an arm. Nami turned around in surprise, but saw Nuo Chigao still lying on the bed without moving. Nami immediately showed a happy smile and ran towards the port. Hey, Nami, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Luffy and the others were bored at this moment, waving at Nami who was running and waiting for her arrival. Chapter 53 Official Promotion. Headquarters Commodore. Advertisement. Awesome, I got a lot of food this time, and the preparations are finally complete. Sanji nodded in satisfaction looking at the supplies in the cabin. Usopp was tidying up the warehouse, and he was very excited to participate in the adventure for the first time. Although it is only a few days, it is really a town full of memories. D has been paddling the whole time, huh? What? Just kidding, I covered you for you. Usopp said with an annoyed look on his face. After waiting so long for Ms. Nami, I'm really afraid that she won't come anymore. Sanji looked at Nami steering the helm with a cigarette in his mouth, his face full of nympho. Idiot, why did you get on this ship? Zoro raised an eyebrow and asked Sanji. Shut up, you're just jealous of my love with Ms. Nami, so you're jealous. Zoro turned his head with black lines all over his head. What are you doing, you idiot? Shut up, I'm on this boat, 99.9999% because of Ms. Nami. Nami glanced at the chart and turned to Sanji with a sly smile. Then you should prepare a summer drink for me. Hearing Nami's voice, Sanji's figure instantly turned into soft plasticine, his eyes turned into red hearts and he raised his hand and shouted. Hi, Nami-san, I'll be here soon. Nami smiled triumphantly. I want 2 glasses. No problem, Sanji shouted excitedly. After Sanji was ready, he served it to Nami, and Nami handed a cup to Luffy casually. You won't be angry if I bring a cup to Chief Luffy? Nami asked, blinking her big shiny eyes. Sanji's heart melted immediately. No, even if you ask me to do it for him, I won't be angry at all. Usopp. Advertisement. I want to eat Sanji too. Sanji immediately turned to look at Usopp with a look of disdain. Go and do it yourself. Usopp. Joe. This lick dog. Luffy jumped onto the sheep's head of the melee, feeling the sea breeze going forward, eating the smoothie made by Sanji very comfortably. A news bird fell from the sky and landed directly on the deck of the melee. Usopp pointed at the news bird excitedly and shouted, Ah, sea bird, can you bake it? Nami punched it flying. Idiot, this is a news bird, selling newspapers. Do you want to spend the rest of your life as a blind man who doesn't even know anything about current affairs? As that's so, Usopp got up and looked at the newspaper hanging around the neck of Newsbird and the hat on his head. It's so amazing, it really is the right time for me to go to sea. Here's a newspaper, Nami said, holding out his hand to Newsbird. The newsbird compared a 100 Bailey with its wings. Nami suddenly looked disgusted. Why has the price increased again? Isn't it a bit expensive for you? Immediately, Nami stuffed Bailey into the backpack on Newsbird's chest and took a newspaper with a look of reluctance. I won't buy it if the price increases again next time. Newsbird touched its head with its wings helplessly. It had never met such a stingy woman. It's just a newspaper, what about you? Usopp fiddled with the various bottles and cans he had researched and did not reply. Nami looked at the crew members who looked like the second uncle with a look of hatred. You guys don't know that rice, oil and salt are expensive. If you buy them every day, it will be a big deal. Luffy is a colonel. His point, the salary is not enough to eat by myself. Don't you need to save money to buy the village back from Arlong? Are you still so fussy about money? Usopp asked in surprise. Nami looked at Usopp with disgust. What are you talking about? I put 100 million Baileys in Kokoyasi village to let everyone rebuild the village. Now we are penniless. Advertisement. In addition to all of you lazy bastards, I don't even have the money to buy a piece of clothing. Fortunately, there are still 2 heads of Murloc cadres who can exchange some Baileys to deal with it temporarily. Let Zoro exchange the bounties of those 2 Murloc leaders later. Usopp carefully poured a bottle of special chili water into the marbles. As long as the enemy hits this trick, it will definitely be over. My killer chili star. What? Suddenly, Nami screamed. Usopp, who was pouring chili water, shook his hand and poured it all over his eyes. Usopp. Ah, water. Usopp was scurrying all over the deck. Zoro looked at Nami in surprise. What's wrong? Sanji, who turned into a knight, was guarding the orange tree on the roof, and jumped down when he heard Nami's cry, who surprised our beloved Nami so much. Usopp. Water. B*******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************$ $$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$ $$$$$ $$$ $ $$ $$ $$ $ $$ $$ $ see, isn't there water everywhere outside the boat? Usopp. Gululu, Sanji, Gululu, D. Everyone looked at Nami again, only to see that Nami turned the newspaper over in tears. Photos of Luffy holding Samahata standing on the giant waves like a sea god appeared in the newspapers. It was written in the newspaper. The newly promoted Marine Supernova Monkey D. Luffy killed the dragon pirates alone, rescued 20 innocent villages and towns, and will soon be promoted to the post of Naval Headquarters Commodore. Single quote. Nami heartbrokenly pointed to the newspaper and said, the bounties for the 2 Murloc officers are gone. Everyone. Is this where your focus is? Chapter 54. Luffy favored by Akainu. Advertisement. In order to give credit to Luffy, Bryn Commodore reported the dragon pirates to naval headquarters intact. Naturally, the bounties of the two Murloc cadres who were going to exchange money for card bugs would not reach Luffy's account. This made Luffy and others, who were already very poor, even poorer. Fortunately, there are materials sponsored by people in Kokoyashi village, which are enough for Luffy and others to persist until Luffy pays his salary. Naval headquarters at this time. Garp showed off to Sengoku with a newspaper laughing. Did you see? Did you see? My grandson, Commodore. Don't let me be promoted. The world government personally ordered Luffy to be promoted to Commodore. Ha ha ha. Sengoku yelled at Garp with veins on his head. Have you had enough? It's been 3 days. You've been in front of me for 3 days. Stop it. Don't you have to do missions? Garp picked his nostrils with a look of disgust. It's only been 3 days, and I'm going to laugh for another 3 months. God knows how Garp got by all these years. The son is the leader of the Revolutionary Army. One of the two grandsons is the son of One Piece, and the other is the rubber fruit eaten by the Red Hair. As Garp, who saved countless celestial dragons from the Valley of the Gods, he naturally knows the real name of rubber fruit. So he has always hoped that Ace and Luffy can become Marines since they were young. Because whether it is Joey Boy who joined Marine or the posthumous son of One Piece who has reformed, they have a greater impact on the world than simply killing the two. If you think about it, you know that the execution of the son of the One Piece is more beneficial to the rule of the world government than the son of the One Piece repenting and joining the Marine to maintain world peace. Even the son of One Piece doesn't bother to look for that big secret treasure anymore. The legend of One Piece must be false. This blow to the era of great pirates is much bigger than the execution of Ace. Advertisement. Not to mention Joey Boy's rubber fruit, the world government has been trying to control rubber fruit for 800 years, but they have all failed. How to control? It must not be found and hidden. Instead, people eat rubber fruit to control it, but as 5 elders said, zone fruit has the will of animals. And the free will contained in the Nika fruit affects the demon fruit power, causing all those who eat the rubber fruit to embark on a path that runs counter to the world government. This is why the 5 elders say that rubber fruit is fleeing the world government. Otherwise, how could devil fruit itself use the word escape to describe it? Today's Luffy, as a rubber fruit capable person, even volunteered to join Marine, and is actively doing the work of fighting pirates. This made the 5 elders overjoyed directly, and let the world government see the possibility of controlling the Nika fruit. So when Luffy's record was presented, Luffy was directly promoted to the post of Commodore. Otherwise, it would be a dream come true for Arlong to be promoted to the naval headquarters Commodore with just 20 million Baileys. You must know that the strength of the Commodore level in this department is the powerhouse who holds armament hockey and observation hockey. The pirates with 20 million Baileys are not an enemy at all under their hands. Luffy can become a Commodore with such a record, all relying on the identity of Rubberfruit and Garp. Seeing Garp's triumphant expression, Sengoku's heart was full of MMP at this moment. He grabbed the senbei in Garp's hand, and stuffed it into his mouth desperately. Ah, my senbei. B************ D Sengoku. I'm going to drink up your tea. Goat. Bah. 2 old men over half a century old began to fight in the marshal's office. Advertisement. The messenger soldier outside the door twitched his mouth and finally decided to report to work later. At the same time, the 3 admirals on the other side and some vice admirals were also discussing the young Commodore in a conference room. It's just defeating an evil dragon. Even if the strength has surpassed the branch Marine, his combat achievements are much worse if he directly becomes the headquarters Commodore. It means that our group of subordinates who have worked so hard in the Grand Line have not yet been qualified to be promoted to Commodore. Is it because of Vice Admiral Garp? If you want to say that, it may be possible. A group of rear admirals muttered in the audience. With their positions, it was impossible to get to the real reason why Luffy was promoted to Commodore. Not to mention that they are clueless about the 3 admirals. Even if it is Garp's grandson, the world government doesn't need to pay so much attention to it. Kizaru took a sip of hot tea. Yo, the young people nowadays are really scary, only 16, right? They're already in Commodore. Aokiji took off the blindfold on his head. Well, I'm so tired. Overall I did a good job, even if he hit Marine very hard. Apparently Aokiji was talking about Luffy taking out the 16th branch directly. Akainu on the side looked at the handed-in report with admiration. Huh. Colluding with Marine. Smearing my Marine's reputation. This kind of person deserves to die. I think he did nothing wrong. If it were me, I would guarantee that this group of scumbags would not left. Akainu pursues thorough justice, and will not tolerate people like Colonel Mouse who swindle and cheat in the name of Marine. Aokiji and Kizaru glanced at Akainu. It seems that Garp, the grandson's behavior, is really liked by Akainu. Let's make an announcement. Let Luffy come to naval headquarters to report on his duties in a month's time. Akainu said to the recorder on the side. Next, let's talk about the Alabasta Rebellion. Chapter 55 Celebrating Luffy as Marine. Advertisement. Grand Line, on a spring island. Hey, look, a pirate on guard suddenly saw several green flames on the sea. Another person picked up the binoculars and took a closer look. This is Hawkeye Mahawk. Go find the boss. The rest of the little pirates gathered around Hawkeye, looking nervously at Hawkeye. Hawkeye. What are you doing here? Don't make noise. I'm not here to find you. Where are the cadres? Eagle Eyes looked straight into the depths of the island's forest. It's really quite leisurely to camp on this kind of island. Deep in the forest, a number of pirates were lying on the ground twisted and twisted. If it weren't for the terrifying aura exuding from them, people would have thought it was a murder scene. A little Carla ran up to the pirate leader out of breath. Boss. Who? Hawkeye, Hawkeye. However, just as he was about to continue talking, he felt a chill behind him, and Hawkeye was already standing behind him. The leader with red hair bowed his head and said in a deep voice, Hawkeye, you are really a rare visitor. I'm not feeling well right now. Did you come to me for a duel? Hawkeye glanced at the red hair in distaste. I never thought that the Kraken would now challenge you, a guy who lost his left arm, to a duel, and now I am pursuing the highest level of kendo. There is no sword in my hand, and I have no sword in my heart. Red hair. Nima, without a sword in your heart, you are Mao's swordsman. Then what are you here for? The redhead looked at Hawkeye in surprise and asked. The fluttering tone made Hawkeye frown. Hawkeye took out a newspaper from his pocket, and said lightly to the redhead, I'm here to tell you that you bet on your loneliness in the future, and the funny kid in a certain village you told me about seems to be your future worst enemy. The red hair pirates looked up instantly when they heard about Luffy. Advertisement. Photos of Luffy hockey riding the waves appeared in front of everyone. The red-haired stared at Luffy wearing the cloak of justice in a daze, and his mind couldn't turn around. The chicken leg in the mouth of the big fat Laji Lu suddenly fell, and he laughed loudly at the redhead and mocked loudly, PFF'd, ha 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 ha. Boss, Luffy has become a marine and a marine commodore. The originally dull atmosphere was instantly interrupted by the taunts from the red hair pirates. Haha, boss, Luffy has become a marine instead of a pirate, haha. I really want to see him chasing you around in the future. He still wears the straw hat you gave him. Are you a marine admiral? Puff ha ha ha. The red-haired guy shook his somewhat bewildered head, and waved his hands at his crew in disgust. Go and play. Then he looked at Hawkeye with an excited expression on his face and said, since Hawkeye is like this, I can't let you just go back like this. Hawkeye frowned, and a large barrel of rum was handed directly to Hawkeye. The red-haired blushed and waved at Hawkeye. That's it, Mahawk, come, have a drink, the banquet is going to be held today. Eagle-eyed picked up the wine glass in pain, and looked at the dizzy red-haired, aren't you hungover? Don't worry about it, this is wine for celebration. Come, drink. Ha ha ha, feeling deeply bored, ha 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 ha. Watching Hawkeye drank the barrel of wine in one gulp, the redhead laughed excitedly. Very good, drink to your heart's content. But boss, didn't you just say that you are not feeling well after drinking too much? You idiot, how can you not drink on such a happy day, ha ha ha. It's still broad daylight, don't worry about it. Done it, cheers to Luffy becoming a marine. Advertisement. .. Hawkeye looked at the excited red hair pirates and twitched his mouth. Only then did he see that the redhead didn't seem to care whether Luffy became a marine or a pirate at all, he just cared whether Luffy went to sea or not. Thinking of the fight with Luffy at the Sabaody restaurant, Hawkeye pulled out the black knife from behind. Be it a pirate or a marine. Kendo never ends. Supreme sword intent. Wait for me to find you again. Monkey D. Luffy. Poor Hawkeye had no idea that Luffy had already given him reasons to avoid fighting in the future. And this scene is not limited to the red hair here. Anyone who knew Luffy set off a frenzy. Windmill Village. The villagers looked at the newspaper excitedly. Hey, is it true? Luffy, marine, isn't this guy always talking about becoming a pirate? OMG, this is Commodore. Garp is also vice admiral, right? He is really capable. Maybe there will be an admiral in this village. This is really good. The old village head leaned on a stick and looked at Luffy's photo with satisfaction. This kid has finally figured it out. I hope he can become a hero like his grandfather. In this way, there will be 2 marine heroes in the village, and East Blue can also it's more peaceful. Cheers, become a marine admiral for Luffy. .. There was a burst of carnival in the tavern. Luffy, who became marine, brought more surprises to everyone than pirates. Chapter 56 Disliked System Rewards. Advertisement. Ding dong, the Kisame template has expired. Open black lens bracket. Congratulations to host Kisame, the restoration rate of the template has reached 100%, and the rewards will be drawn soon. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Congratulations on getting the item reward. Broadsword Samahata. Close black lens bracket. Do you want to enable template refollowing? Close black lens bracket. Luffy looked at Samahata in his hand with disgust. Why did you randomly get one of these things? Even if you give me a 3-body technique, it's better than Samahata, right? Zoro on the side looked at the depressed Luffy strangely and asked, what's wrong? Luffy glanced at Zoro and said with a strange smile, Zoro, do you want a big knife? Zoro. Then Luffy handed Samahata to Zoro. This knife is for you. Zoro looked at Luffy with a look of disgust. I don't want it, it doesn't look like a knife at all, okay. Samahata looked like a mallet when it was wrapped in a bandage, but when it was unwrapped, boy, it had nothing to do with the knife at all. This is a famous sword. It's comparable to the Supreme 12 sharp swords. It can absorb the energy and blood of the enemy to replenish itself, restore vitality and physical strength. It can also fuse with it and become a murloc. A batch of cattle. Luffy was just bragging to Zoro. It's a pity that Zoro still looks disgusted and has no interest in Samahata. TCH. Luffy had no choice but to put Samahata away silently. That is to say, this knife is not suitable for Li Jing's 100% empty-handed catch, otherwise Luffy can let them feel what it means to be 100% empty-handed to catch the mace. Although Luffy dislikes Samahata very much, it is only because the guy is too ugly. In terms of ability alone, Samahata's ability to absorb the enemy's blood to replenish himself is a perfect match for the second gear that consumes life and a lot of physical strength. Usopp on the lookout yelled at Luffy, I want it. Luffy chuckled and threw Samahata to Usopp directly. Usopp is ready to catch. Advertisement. In the next second, the heavy Samahata staggered him directly. Good weight. Usopp picked up Samahata with a black line all over his head, but he was only able to pick it up. You must know that Kisame is gifted with strange powers, and Samahata is ridiculously heavy for ordinary people. What Usopp didn't expect was that the moment he got Samahata, Usopp felt his physical strength was draining rapidly. After a while, the whole person collapsed directly on the observation deck. Hey, Luffy, what a broken knife, why is it so heavy? And I feel more and more tired after holding it in my hand. Usopp complained weakly and loudly. Luffy laughed at the bottom. This thing is a monster that can suck the blood of others. If you use it without fighting, you need to feed it regularly, although not much. That's not much. I can't G stand up, okay. Usopp said with a depressed face. Unexpectedly, Samahata suddenly seemed to feel that Usopp couldn't get enough blood, so he jumped off the bandage by himself and jumped to Luffy's side. My grass. Samahata with a big mouth frightens Usopp directly. Looking at Samahata, Luffy, who was like a puppy beside him with black lines all over his head, you are Samahata, one of the 7 ninja swords. I'm not Killer Bee, why are you clinging to me? In desperation, Luffy had no choice but to carry Samahata again, and gave it to Chopper if it didn't work. Samahata, who can grow bigger by devouring energy and blood, might just be suitable for Chopper who ate the fruits of ordinary people. Sanji. Breakfast. Is breakfast ready? Starving. Luffy turned his head and yelled into the cabin. The broken knife made Luffy, who already had a huge appetite, even bigger. Fortunately, Samahata devours chi and blood and has a weak exercise effect, so that Luffy's physical strength is slowly increasing. Hi, I'll do it right away, you wait first. Young fan Sanji climbed down from the net rope to comfort him. Cooking is always the happiest moment for Sanji. Good morning, Nami-san. Sanji stared at Nami, who had just come out of the cabin and ran into the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Advertisement. Hey, Zoro, how about we play hide and seek? Usopp squatted in front of Zoro excitedly. It can be. Luffy nodded. The voyage before landing was indeed boring. Ah, Zoro looked at the two of them as if they were mentally retarded. Are you idiots? How old are you? You're so useless. Yawn, I'm going to catch up on sleep before breakfast. Hey, you must be afraid of losing, right? Usopp looked at Zoro with a smirk and said aggressively. Zoro's leaving figure instantly stopped in place. What did you say, boy? How could I be afraid? Usopp laughed. Haha, look, get angry all at once. Nani, come on, who is afraid of whom? If you lose, you will be a puppy. Luffy laughed. Zoro is just like a child, haha. Stop, you two bastards. Zoro's eyes were burning with anger, and he rushed towards Luffy and Usopp frantically. Come and chase me, I'll let you he. Stop. B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** platform and propped his chin with his hand, looking at the three people fighting with each other below with a happy smile on his mouth. At this moment, Sanji finished cooking and came out of the kitchen. Hey, you three, it's time for breakfast. Nami-san, I prepared delicious egg tarts for you. Nami smiled happily. Thank you. Sanji suddenly turned into a puddle of mud, writhing around. The three people below looked at Sanji with contempt, and said in unison, "Bah, lick the dog." Sanji. FK, you three childish guys, how can you understand the charm of Nami-san? Whispering sound. Chapter 57 Horror New Template. Top observation Hockey. Advertisement. The system reloads the character template. Ding dong, the template is being randomly generated. Congratulations for getting this random template. Kill Wong Liren Bok. Close black lens bracket. Luffy, who was yawning, suddenly brightened his eyes. Kill Wong Liren Bok, the main character in the Star Predator anime. The legendary Blitz knocked down Wong Liren Bok. Although this anime is not too popular, Luffy knows that the strength of Liren Bok, the protagonist of the battle comics, is definitely pervert. Without him, Liren Bok's only ability is speed. Ability to move faster than the speed of sound. And the feeling, endurance, and thinking ability to match the speed. Luffy hastily opened his property panel. Open black lens bracket host. Wong Luffy Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Currently loaded template. Blitz's knockdown Wong Liren Bok. Close black lens bracket. Equipment. Odachi. Innate abilities. Lightning strike, the ability to move faster than the speed of sound. Critical strike, sword strike at super heights. Strengthened thinking, able to adapt to and timely handle actions in the high-speed state. Toughness, the body can easily withstand the impact of high-speed movement. Impact. Character reset countdown. 6 days, 23 hours and 59 minutes. Character restoration degree, 10%. With a flash of golden light, a large sword with the same length as Luffy appeared at Luffy's waist. And Luffy's observation Hockey skyrocketed at the same time, and the talent of enhanced thinking was not restricted by the ontology and was exactly the same as the protagonist. The scope of observation Hockey, which was originally just a rudimentary one, has expanded by more than 10 times. At this time, Luffy can still vaguely foresee part of the future. This is the top observation haki that can only be obtained when fighting Kaji. What surprised Luffy even more was that he could feel that his body had been greatly strengthened. Advertisement. He could feel that even if he slashed himself with a knife at this moment, it might only create a white mark. At this time, his body hardness is comparable to the iron body level of CP9 members. Armament haki is just a stone's throw away. Huh, Luffy, when did you change your knife again? Zoro put down the fitness equipment sweating profusely and saw the Taidao hanging on Luffy. Luffy smiled, and disappeared from the spot the next moment. What? Zoro's pupils shrank, he didn't even see Luffy's movements. As expected of the knockdown king of Blitz, this speed has risen to another level. Luffy's voice came from behind Zoro. Zoro turned around abruptly, only to see Luffy was already standing behind him. Hey, you still keep people alive, and the speed has increased again. Zoro looked at Luffy in disbelief. Temporary, this is just a temporary cheat. Luffy waved his hand, they're all useless. Zoro blankly glanced at Luffy, turned his head and joined the Iron Army. With such a captain, as the deputy captain, the pressure on himself was too great. And Luffy drew out the sword at his waist, and the number 213 appeared on the sword. Star points. The world of Star Raiders is a Garden of Eden established in the sky by a superpower after a nuclear war. All are ruled by star points. Different people have different ways of obtaining star points, but the more star points, the stronger the strength. There are two types of star points obtained by the protagonist Liren Bach. One is the number that replaces the number of companions killed on the Odachi. The other is the number of girls on the left hand. And the 213 on the sword is the number of those pirates that Luffy has killed since he went to sea. Then Luffy looked at his left hand again, but saw a number 57 appearing on his left hand. Advertisement. Luffy suddenly took a breath. Good guy. I didn't expect that I would be so popular. You must know that the number on the girl's left hand will decrease by 1 every time Liren Bach flicks it. And the number on the protagonist's left hand is minus 1002. In other words, the protagonist has dumped 1002 girls. But Luffy has a positive 57 in his hand, which means that there are at least 57 girls in this world who are willing to commit themselves to Luffy. Luffy immediately guessed the girls in the 20 villages and towns on the island where Kokoja village is located. Tisk tisk tisk, Marine is really popular. Luffy let out an exclamation of excitement. Then he looked at the number on the Odachi, which was far from the original protagonist's 300,000 star points. If I want to restore the strength of the protagonist Liren Bach to 100%, it is very likely that I will push the number on the sword to 300,000, and then dump 1002 girls. Isn't this F********* G nonsense? Luffy twitched the corner of his mouth speechlessly, unless this template might be able to complete a 100% restoration when he was fighting against the BIGMOM pirates, 10,000 kingdoms. But judging from my current route, unless I kill indiscriminately all the way, otherwise, wanting to reach 300,000 kill points is purely a dream. But even so, the talent that Liren Bach brings can greatly facilitate the progress of Luffy's armament haki and observation haki. Especially observation haki, the so-called predicting the future is to simulate in the brain the imminent future with the largest possible choice through the perception of extremely subtle observations. And Blitz King's ability to feel and think that matches the speed of sound directly pushed observation haki to the top. Everything around was transmitted to Luffy's mind through the 5 senses, and countless future pictures flashed in Luffy's mind. Is this what it feels like to be a god? Luffy grabbed a giant fish in the sea directly onto the deck. But what followed was a sense of exhaustion. FK, is this thing so wasteful? Luffy shook his head, and was surprised to find that his body had already consumed a lot of energy at this time. No wonder Ka would only activate this top-level knowledge color when he was fighting. Luffy, look, the town of Rog is here. Usopp interrupts Luffy to study his newly loaded template. At this time, the shadow of the town of Rog has appeared above the sea level. Chapter 58. Straw Hat Crew So Poor. Advertisement. Is that the island where the town of Rog is? It seems to be a pretty big town, right? I heard it is. Looks like there's a market selling fresh ingredients. I'm going to the weapon shop. It's really not very decent for a 3-sword samurai to always have only one sword. Then I'll go to the equipment store to have a look. Luffy. By the way, are you rich? Everyone. Damn, penniless. This time, Nami did not steal the wallets of the villagers of Kokoyasi village. Everyone looked at me, I looked at you, and finally they all set their eyes on Luffy. You all look at me, I can't change money. Luffy suddenly raised his voice. Then we don't care. You are the captain. As a Marine Commodore who is about to be promoted, you must not give your subordinates salaries, right? Nami approached Luffy with a smile and said, and then gave Luffy a seductive look, why didn't you report the establishment to us? In order to defraud. In order to gain the world government's wool, Luffy has been asking the crew to use the pirates as bounty hunters to exchange the bounty Bailey. After all, once they become a Marine, the pirate's bounty becomes the Marine's military exploits. For the brave Luffy and others who are skilled in art, no matter how you look at it, it is more than Bailey earns in exchange for bounty. It's a pity that East Blue is the weakest sea after all. The average reward for the entire East Blue by Garp is less than 3 million. Like Krieg with a bounty of 17 million and Arlong with a bounty of 20 million, it is simply impossible to find. Advertisement. Luffy looked melancholy at the town of Rog, waiting for the Grand Line to evacuate Sky Island Enel's gold no matter what. No wonder Marine can become the biggest force in the pirate world, they are rich. Although they were obtained by exploiting the citizens by celestial dragons, they easily supported the expenses of the entire Marine plus bounty hunters. The reason why pirates are evil is that these poor people need to be self-sufficient in order to survive. The world government somehow gave the villagers a way to survive. But what this group of pirates robbed was the money and food for the villagers to survive. If you grab a One Piece level bounty like your grandfather, then you won't have to worry about money for the rest of your life. Sanji took a breath and said, One Piece. Luffy rubbed his chin. One Piece. Buggy. Luffy suddenly remembered the clown Buggy who was an intern on the One Piece ship. Buggy, who was supposed to appear in Rog Town. Since Wong Luffy's crossing people did not go to Orange Town to find Buggy, so Luffy is not sure whether this guy came to Rog Town. Luffy turned back to the cabin and took out the reward order sent by Naval Headquarters, pulled out the reward order of Buggy the Clown and handed it to everyone. See, we rely on this guy to pay for our purchases. When we go ashore, everyone disperses and go to the town to look for him to see if there is any sign of this guy. Everyone looked at the reward of 16 million Baileys with bright eyes. Are you sure he's here? Zoro asked Luffy, frowning. Cough cough, probably. Everyone immediately looked disgusted. Relationship is luck. Luffy gave everyone a blank look. Whether you want to find it or not, let me tell you, the guard of this town is the Thorn from Naval Headquarters, the smoker from Logia Demon Fruit Power. If you don't want your head to be robbed, then set off quickly. Advertisement. Cut. You are squeezing labor. Zoro was still thinking about his weapon. He turned to Nami and asked, do you have any money left? Use it first. Nami suddenly showed a fox-like smile. Hey, 9 out and 13 out. Interest is calculated every day. Zoro roared frantically. Are you a devil? Do you want to borrow it? Borrow. Soon everyone parked the Mary at the port, and as Marines, they naturally didn't have to park the ship in the wild. When we got off the boat, there were bustling crowds everywhere. I've never seen a small island so prosperous. Most of the people along the way are small islands like villages and towns. After all, it is a famous check-in spot for the birth and death of One Piece. It's the first time I have the feeling of coming to a big city. Very well, let's split up and see if we can find Buggy. We also look at the other reward orders. No matter how small a mosquito is, it's meat. Everyone nodded and set off towards the town separately. And just as Zoro was about to leave, Luffy called Zoro from behind. Zoro, do you want to buy 2 famous knives? Zoro looked back at Luffy in surprise. Huh, I don't want your monster. Luffy gave Zoro a blank look. I told you it's a ninja sword, it's awesome, okay. And I'm not talking about Samahata. What's that? Zoro asked, looking at Luffy curiously. 3rd generation Gushin Yukizo. Zoro's eyes lit up when he heard that. Chapter 59th Natural Stay Tashigi. Advertisement. Zoro and Sanji walk out from Marine Base. At this time, there was an extra stack of Baileys in the hands of the two of them. Luffy glanced in disgustedly. Bah, what is the power of the 3 suns and the moon? Just pretend to be a big-tailed wolf with a 2 million bounty. It turned out that when Luffy and the others sent the pirate to Marine Base to exchange for the bounty, this guy boasted that he had a bounty of 5 million just to pretend to be AB*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** 3 million Baileys, reaching a bounty of more than 5 million seems to be the dream of many pirates. Zoro on the side was not too disappointed, because compared to the 300,000 given by Nami, 2 million Pele is quite a lot for him. This time we have money to buy a knife, right? Zoro looked at Bailey in his hand and asked excitedly. We have to wait a little longer, we're going to find someone. Luffy touched his chin and said. Ah, Zoro looked at Luffy with a puzzled face. At this time, a knife shop next to the road attracted Zoro's attention. Oh, a knife shop. Zoro excitedly ran to the display counter, and when he saw the price marked on the knives on the display cabinet, Zoro's mood instantly became very ugly. Damn, it's too expensive, this kind, how dare you ask for 1 million Baileys. If Luffy hadn't found an extra money temporarily, the money he borrowed from Nami would not be enough for Zoro to take a look at it. Huh, I found it. Luffy, who was exploring the way with observation haki, opened his eyes suddenly. Huh, what? Go, your knife has been found. While speaking, Luffy excitedly drew to a place where people gathered and walked over. It's really rude to call him a monster. A crisp female voice came from the crowd. Advertisement. Don't be so wordy, he grabbed our heads and went to jail. Haven't you learned how to behave? Yeah, we can't swallow this breath if it goes on like this. We're going to throw your dead body in front of him. The sound of arguing reached Zoro and Luffy's ears. The two broke through the crowd and looked in. At this time, Tashigi, who was dressed in rustic clothes, was confronting two pirates with murder weapons. The two pirates shouted impatiently and swung their knives at Tashigi. Zoro, who was watching, subconsciously put his hand on the words of Hidao. But Tashigi was not afraid at all, and the cloth strip she held in her hand fell off, revealing her famous sword Wajo, ready to kill the two pirates instantly. However, there was a figure who shot faster than the two. Zoro only felt that Luffy next to him was fleeting. In the next second, Luffy has appeared in front of Tashigi. In Tashigi's stunned expression, Luffy took Tashigi in his arms, and Samahata came out from behind. With a loud noise, the two pirates screamed and smashed a big hole in the ground. And the number of star points on the dagger at his waist increased by 2 points again, and Luffy felt that his speed had improved a little bit again. Good guy, this thing has a killing bonus, no wonder the blitz on Wang Chang is outrageous. Luffy muttered softly. Then Luffy suddenly became serious and said to Tashigi. How dare you attack such a cute girl, these pirates are still damned as always. Then he turned his head handsomely to Dasichi with a motherly smile and said, this beautiful lady, are you not hurt? At this time, Tashigi was wearing a khaki floral shirt, a pair of blue trousers, half of Tashigi's face was covered by big frame glasses, and it was obvious to others that she was a local girl who could not dress up. Nobody ever complimented her on being pretty or anything like that. At this moment, Luffy's affectionate greeting made Tashigi's pretty face flush. Advertisement. No, nothing. Tashigi whispered, can you let me go, please? Luffy looked at Tashigi's embarrassing look and was instantly elated. Sure enough, the happiest thing is to be bullied naturally. Luffy chuckled and pulled Tashigi's hand from his waist. Who would have thought that Tashigi's legs gave way, screaming and throwing himself into Luffy's arms again. Ah, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Tashigi got up from Luffy's arms with a flushed face and bowed to Luffy again and again. Luffy smiled and waved his hands. It's okay. It just so happens that a friend of mine wants to buy 2 knives. If you feel sorry, can you take us to a suitable shop? At this moment, Dashichi saw the Teidao and Samahata on Luffy. She asked Luffy excitedly, are you a swordsman too? Luffy rubbed his chin, looked at the Samahata and Teidao in his hand. Let's count it. It seems that if you use a knife yourself, you will be caught. He is the real #1 swordsman in the world that even Hawkeye wants to surpass. At this time, Zoro stepped forward to justify Luffy's name. It seems that when it comes to kendo, Zoro is very serious. Especially after taking Luffy as the ultimate boss. Luffy looked at Zoro speechlessly. Are you a fool? Only ghosts believe your nonsense, okay. What? You are so powerful. Tashigi looked at Luffy excitedly and said in surprise. Luffy, I really believe it. Chapter 60 Let's make a bet. Advertisement. In the town of Rog, Tashigi asked Luffy all kinds of things with an excited face. When did the duel between you and Hawkeye start? How did that supreme sword intent be displayed? The 3rd level of kendo, I just entered the 1st level. The 2 knives in your hand look so powerful, are they also famous knives? My dream is to take back all the famous swords in the world from the villains. If I reach the state of no sword in my heart as you said, will my dream be meaningless? Tashigi, who was originally shy and quiet, walked around Luffy like a bee when talking about kendo and knives. Luffy glared at Zoro viciously. Your uncle, let me stay naturally. It's a pity that Zoro, who has a low EQ, didn't feel Luffy's pain at all. He looked at Luffy in surprise. Why are you staring at me? Luffy. Finally, when Luffy was about to go crazy, they finally came to the place where Tashigi took care of Shiger. This is it. Although the boss likes money, the quality of technology and weapons can be guaranteed. Tashigi pointed to a shop with a dilapidated plaque and said to the two. Luffy saw that it was indeed the store where Zoro got the 3rd generation Goosh. Advertisement. Welcome. Please choose slowly. My family is a 200-year-old shop. The store owner rubbed his hands like a profiteer and said to the 3 of Luffy. Boss, our 2 friends want to buy 2 knives. Tashigi pointed to Luffy and the 2 of them and spoke. Please tell the boss 2 good knives. Tashigi said to the shop owner with clasped hands, and then she pointed to Zoro. Look at my friend who has not eaten for a few days and looks hungry. It must be there is an old mother who is sick in bed, and maybe the wife has run away, and she is raising 5 children who are waiting to be fed. Zoro. Luffy laughed at the side. Tashigi's brain power is second only to Usopp's prophecy among pirates. In short, please give my friend a good price. Tashigi said with a sincere face. The originally flattering expression of the rosacea-nosed uncle on the opposite side instantly turned into a look of disgust. Then how much money do you have? Zoro slapped the bounty he received from Marine on the table, 1.3 million Baileys. The boss's eyes lit up when he heard about it. He originally thought that this guy was poor after hearing Tashigi's introduction, but he turned out to be a rich man. I want to buy 2. Zoro said, holding out a 2-finger. The boss suddenly rejoiced in his heart. It seems that he is still being taken advantage of. I don't even know the price of knives in the market in Rog Town. The swords on the display cabinets that Zoro saw in other knife shops before are basically the treasures of the merchants. The boss of rosacea directly and mysteriously took out a gorgeous sword inlaid with gold and silver from the cupboard. Brother, I see that you are full of seals and lucky stars. I will sell you this sword that has been passed down from my ancestors for many years today. It only costs 100 yuan. Wan Bailey. Take home a sword that is comparable to a famous sword. Zoro looked at the sword in the owner's hand covered with black lines. As a swordsman, he could tell at a glance that the sword was nothing but gorgeous. Advertisement. Tashigi on the side frowned, and seriously took out her small book that recorded all the famous knives and rummaged for a long time. Boss, you are wrong. Not one of Liang Kuei Dao's 50 skills is your sword. The store owner looked at Tashigi's earnest expression in dismay, and smiled a little embarrassingly. I said it all, it's comparable, it's comparable. At this time, Luffy rummaged through a pile of broken swords at the corner of the door and found a long black knife. The head of this knife is decorated with kojiri, and the blade is cross-shaped, which is relatively simple. It has a handle and a handle. From a distance, it looks like a rusty Madara, but if you look closely, you can feel its sharpness. One of the 50 craftsmen of Liang Kuei Dao, 3rd generation Onitoru. Zoro's eyes lit up when he saw this, and he walked towards Luffy excitedly, grabbing the knife in his hand. Tashigi even introduced all the information about 3rd generation Guido clearly with admiration. The shop owner was delighted at first, then struggled on his face. This knife is not for sale. Huh, why? Tashigi frowned and looked at the shop owner. Zoro waved the 3rd generation Gush in his hand and felt more and more comfortable. That knife is a demon knife. The shop owner finally said, the knives of the Onitsu series are good, but many swordsmen who wore the Onitsu series died inexplicably. Now there is no swordsman who uses Onitsu anymore. No, that's not right, Luffy said aside, 1st generation Gush is still in use. The store owner was stunned, and Luffy continued, boss, let's make a bet. I will use my sword skills to compare with his curse. If my sword skills are stronger, how about you give me this 3rd generation Gush? The shop owner was stunned. How is this a competition? Luffy reached out and took the 3rd generation Kizaru from Zoro's hand, and slashed straight at Tashigi. With the addition of the Blitz King template, 3rd generation Onitsu appeared in front of Tashigi instantly like a phantom. What are you doing?